Sorry about that. And we're live. Hello, everybody. How's it going? It's Monday night. I've noticed that my gain has been on a little bit too hard, so let me turn it down a little bit. And let's pick up the volume here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Manic Mondayz. I'm your host, Cedar Robles. This is the Movies and Mental Health show, where I just kind of have my little interactive vlog here, where people can chime in and ask me any questions they like, movie related, mental health related, anything related. I've been doing a lot of pop culture lately, so let's get started because I have a guest in the green room and I do not want to keep him waiting too long. I told him I was going to get him in 5 to 7 minutes, and we're already at 3 minutes, 2 minutes, but that was with a 1 minute intro. All right, well, so we're going to talk about my quote: horror films don't create fear, they release it. Wes Craven. This is one of my favorite directors, filmmakers. When I was younger and I wanted to be a actor and a filmmaker, he was one of the first people I gravitated to, and it was one of the things that that I loved about his movies, where I had already seen a lot of his movies, and they had affected me in one way or another. Whether it would be The Hills Have Eyes, was it The Last House on the Left, and then Nightmare on Elm Street for sure. Because Nightmare on Elm Street really brought me into the whole horror genre, and that really kind of kept me there. I'd seen horror movies, but I didn't understand what they were. But even did Wes Craven did Scream. I mean, he reinvented, reinvented, but he really gave horror a different angle. So I really enjoyed a lot of his work. But one of the things I've always wanted to say was, like, once I realized that all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies were like connected, like I really liked the kind of like metaverse thing it made. It was kind of cool to be able to keep up with it. So I think that's when I really was like, oh, let me get more into this director and follow him and make sure I see all his movies. And then in 2015, I started doing more screenwriting, and I took a screenwriting class with Kathy Welch, one of my friends. And she had made us do an assignment where she said pick a writer or director or someone that you liked, and write an essay about them, like get to know them better, and see how you can relate to them and why you picked them. So I wrote this whole I think like essay, like a 3-page essay on Wes Craven, and that was a Monday morning. And I this is when I used to get to class at like 6 in the morning, only because I had to avoid traffic. So I would just leave at 5 in the morning to school, and just get there and then kind of hang out, wait till class started at 8:30, and just kind of chill. But I remember when I wrote my paper, one of the first people in my class said, "Oh, who'd you write? Who'd you pick?" I said Wes Craven. Like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, he passed away." I was like, "What?" While I was in class, like while I was doing the speech, like I found out he passed away. So I was like, "Wow, it's kind of crazy." Like I'm writing this like research paper on him, and he's gone. One of my favorite directors. So one thing I got from him was just kind of do your own thing and just write no matter what, and make what you have to do. But he's definitely the creator of the Hills Have Eyes, and that movie scared me. That movie right here, boom, yeah. There's Michael Berryman right there, who I actually met in 2020 at a distance, like social distance con in San Antonio. It was pretty cool, and he told me that he was playing. He had played he was supposed to be in The Crow. He was gonna play the skeleton, cowboy skeleton or something like that. And they shot his scenes, but they never put it in the movie. And that was one of his favorite performances that he said that never got out there. So it's pretty cool once you start doing the convention, you start learning things about your favorite actors and your favorite people that just that create movies. So I did want to share one thing today. So I don't want it to be all down. I got some bad news today, but I'm not gonna not like bad for me, but just like a hometown news kind of thing. But I'm gonna see what I got. All right. So what I was gonna say was my son, we watched the movie together, and he picked it. So I said sure, why not? And that movie was Gremlins. So that was his choice, and I let him kind of figure it out and kind of get through it. He enjoyed it. Skipped a few scenes, like the like the mom scene in the kitchen. I want to show him that. That's a little too graphic, I think. But I just skipped a few stuff. But other than that, we saw Gremlins, 1984, PG, 1 hour 46 minutes, comedy fantasy horror. A young man inadvertently breaks 3 important rules concerning his new pet and unleashes a horde of malvoluntary, mischievous monsters on a small town. Director Joe Dante, writer Christopher Columbus, stars Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates and Hoyt Axton. This is a great movie. Here's a photo of us right here enjoying it. He was kind of snuggled up next to me, so he was like, I did let him know that there was a sequel, and the sequel was, Gremlins 2, the new batch, and he got into it up until the bat gremlin. He said, "Oh, Dad, that scares me. I don't want to watch that." And I go, "All right." And this is the bat gremlin scared him. So yeah, that's where that came out. But I did want to say that you know what? I think that's kind of where I'm at right now with the intros. I got a guest waiting. I want to bring them on already. It's time to get the show started. Everybody on the Indie Escape Network, I want you to thank. Let me give a big welcome to Mark from the. Is he there? Mark, you there? I don't know. Hello. There he is. You're muted. There you are.
There we go.
This is
how's it going?
This is Mark from 70's Horror Movies Instagram page. Hello.
Howdy. Hey man, I gotta say, Gremlins, great gateway drug for horror for your little one there.
Yeah.
Because that was pretty much, man. I can remember that was probably the first horror that I got into as a little kid. I even had the time they had the books and the records. So they'd split up the storyline into 5 different books and vinyl records you could follow along. Yeah. So good
cool.
First choice. Yeah.
Yeah, he picked that, and it was kind of ironic that hey, Joe Ridgely, good evening, gentlemen. What's up, Joe? It's the producer of the Escape Network. My son, it was between that and Jaws, and I remember, like, I have pretty decent memory. I remember like watching. I was like, I think that's one of the first movies I remember was either Jaws or Gremlins. I remember watching it with my dad. And I was like, wow, he's pretty close to watching. I was like, nah, you can't watch Jaws just yet. You gotta wait a little bit on that one. But I even like that. That's a. I was looking up some things to like talk to you about, and I have it right here. It was under Screen Rant. It has the top of like 10 killer or horror elements of the 70s, and Jaws is in there. And it is a horror movie. In a sense, like. It's stalking you, like that's I'm coming in low compared to Mark. All right, let me crank it back up. There we go, Joe Ridgely. Yeah, sorry, Joe. I was telling you, I've noticed that my grain was coming a little too hot on some of the episodes, so I want to make sure I'm not an audio guy. I'm a video guy. I've learned this on my own. But thank you for coming on the show, man. So basically,
thank you for having me, man. I appreciate the invitation for sure.
Yeah, dude. So to let everybody know, I met Mark at on July 23rd for Alan Danziger's 80th birthday for Horror Fans for Healing, where we raised $8,000 to go to the tragedy happening to the families. So there I am with the gang. There's Mark with the gang.
Thanks for the photo, man.
yeah, it was great. That was a good time. And this was all because of Texas Chainsaw. Oh, here, I hit the wrong button. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. A classic. And one of the things about that event was I was amongst the fans. I don't think I was. I kind of got put a little bit in charge, and it kind of just happened on its own. And I could have the background, that catering background, so I easily slid right into it. But when it comes down to it, it was nice seeing like everybody's face just light up and everybody having a good time. And now I'm finding out that you drove. Did you drive all the way from where you're from?
Oh yeah, man, from Las Vegas, New Mexico to Kingsland, Texas. About like 10 hours, I think, something like that, 10 or 11. Yeah.
Man, that's a commitment, brother. That's a drive, dude. I've driven to Colorado Springs for a convention. And then I'm actually going to Red Bank this coming up weekend to go do Clerks 3. I'm gonna go see the premiere, and that's kind of where the fanboy in me is kind of like, yes, like I want to be part of this, and it's kind of cool. But it's like I was saying when we were in the green room, like it's cool to see like another fanboy kind of just being like, hey, this is what we do, we enjoy it, and what specifically is it about the 70s horrors that you like? I like your page because as I follow it, it's like you have a lot of information here. It's very informative.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. Well, you had brought up at the intro of your show, Wes Craven, and I think the film in particular of his anyway that I think has in common with kind of what I find so unique about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'll just use the G word, man, grittiness. Is that the 70s horror has that I don't think they really ever have recaptured in subsequent decades. Just the level of grittiness and realism, I think is just unparalleled for that particular decade. You know, it's kind of like they say that the same way you had like Sam Peckinpah with Wild Bunch and some other directors of that time kind of pushing the envelope on what has been shown on screen. You know, you had the first R-rated movies coming out and all of that, that I think horror just really had a lot of creativity during that era. That I think that you get into subsequent decades, and not to say that, I mean, there's still, I don't want to be a purist and say that there's nothing good post 70s, because there's good stuff 80s, 90s, and even, you know, even in the 21st century, but it becomes, you start to get into a formula, right? It becomes very formulaic. And the 70s just, I feel like the characters, the storylines, the atmosphere just had this kind of gritty realism to it that I think it still holds up today, you know, especially Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, everybody always talks about that, you know, it's really about what you don't see in that film. You know, you look at, I think, a lot of the films, I can't help it, I'm a bit of a critic. You look at a lot of the films 2000s onwards, you know, kind of the ones that they nicknamed the torture porn genre and all that. And it's not even that, I mean, I can handle gore, so it's not like I'm offended. It's just more that it feels lazy, you know, that it feels that, you know, you can repulse people as much as you want, but that's not going to necessarily be something that's going to stick with them. With Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the acting is superb. And you oftentimes think, hey, these are guys I think I've met before, you know, like there's an uncomfortable level of realism in the film, even as grotesque and outlandish as it gets, you know, near the end of the film. There's still a level of realism about the characters that I think that's one of the things that makes 70s horror so unique.
I think that movie in particular, a lot of people have asked me, like, what is it about that movie? You hang out with Chainsaw Jerry. Like, what do people like? Because people love that movie, and I have an answer, but I don't think it's a PC answer, so I don't really like to say it. But one thing I do love about this movie, it's you can tell there was a lot of time put into it. There's a lot of care, and there's a certain way of it's a story that's being told, and it just happens to be a horror movie, but the way it builds everything up, the way you have to follow it, the way you see it. And then, they all die at the spoiler alert, they all die at the end. But that's just because that's just the interactions. That's just the boom, 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 boom. And that's how it kind of is. And then when I was hanging out with Chainsaw Jerry the other day, he laughs at the fact that somebody threw a meme on his page that said, Leatherface was well within his rights for being from the state of Texas, and they put like the penal code that protects him, that he was there because he was in his own right, and he's like, man, I love it. They're still breaking that stuff up. I go, yeah, I mean it's canon. There's something like, especially now that I was born in 1984, so for me,
dude, me too. There we go. Okay. Gremlins here.
Nice. So I don't know if you have this issue, but especially now that I'm really getting, you don't have this issue because you're 1970 horror. I have issues like remembering movies before my age, like unless I unless I saw them like in a class or somebody introduced it to me. Like it's really, really hard. But anything from like 80 to 84 and then on, I'm good. But 70s, 60s, I had a hard time. Austin has had this video store called Vulcan Videos. And I used to love it because they used to have, like, right when you walk in to the right, they had all the video selections by the staff picks. And I'd always just grab those, and this is what I'm going to grab. And I'd watch them, and I'd be like, what the hell is this? But just trying to figure out what they were doing. And a lot of them were, like, 60s and 70s movies. My brain was more like, these are a little too slow-paced. Maybe I need
it's a different style. Yeah, for sure.
But I also like that in the 70s that they're still kind of figuring out filmmaking. It's still very new. It's still like it's a lot of independent works coming out, and I mean, like I like The Long Kiss Goodnight, and that's a detective movie, you know. And then they have what do you call it? What's the other one I was about to bring up? See, like Steve McQueen, he's got a bunch of movies in the 70s, like the spy movies. I could kind of like, or those action movies. I kind of could understand. I remember Bond. But outside of like those genres, I can't really in the 70s. So the grittiness is what you like. I think also like you're, right here, Jaime Nola, shout out. Jaime is in the house. Jump scares ruin horror movies. I think that's what you were trying to say, because it does turn into like a bunch of grotesque horror for a lot of movies that they want to show
Yeah.
you. Like a lot of the Final Destination movies, like the first two, I thought they were cool because they did a lot of practical effects, but then they went like total CGI off the top to the end. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's kind of not, it's just a jump scare. That's all it is. And
And you know, it's funny, man, when you're bringing up effects, like, and that's why I do appreciate post 70s, but I do feel like there's so much more creativity. And when you look at something like John Carpenter's The Thing, right?
oh yeah,
A lot of people consider it maybe the best of the 80s, which there's a lot of different films that could claim that title. But I mean, John Carpenter's The Thing, I mean, just the level of creativity in those practical effects. Just, I feel like that, I don't know, CGI, it's almost like I think that filmmakers oftentimes are forced to be more creative and innovative when they have less of a budget, right? And we see that a lot with the 70s and with the 80s as well. And I just find that I really like that when the filmmakers are forced to challenge themselves. And that's what happened with like Texas Chainsaw. I mean, they're doing that on a very low budget.
yeah,
And yet that's what they say makes it hold up, is that it doesn't feel too slick or clean, right?
yeah,
That Daniel Pearl, he's got this some of the shots look like something you'd see more in like an art house film or an experimental film. And yet at the same time, there's this graininess, there's this grittiness that, you know, still holds up almost 50 years later, that people are still kind of watching it as if they call it like, you know, the cinema verite, the documentary style.
yeah.
Romero's Night of the Living Dead, that was the first to do it. That's the one that really, that's one of my favorites too, 68.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead, the original, is just, once again, the way it's shot, it's almost like newsreel footage. And just that ending, spoiler alert if nobody's seen Night of the Living Dead, the original, the ending has got to be one of the most bleak, brutal endings in horror history. And there's so much social commentary going on about it, you know, with the civil rights movement and all of that, even though Romero denies that, you know, it seems pretty clear. I mean, everything, it looks like it's, you know, newspaper clippings. The guys are picking him up with the hooks, putting his body on the fire. You're thinking, wait a minute, this was our protagonist. Another thing that's brilliant, he, you know, one of the first times to have a black male lead.
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought just what they were doing during that era. And you know, Night of the Living Dead, that's the one, Romero, man, he's the one that opened the floodgates, because then Toby Hooper, Wes Craven, they're all like, hey, we don't have to do these big budget studio movies with a bunch of, you know, with a bunch of cheesy monsters and special effects that nobody's really scared of. Let's get into the reality, like that, you know, the horror is right here, right? It's right here in America's backyard. So I think that's one of the things that really, I
remember being like at least 7 or 8 years old when I saw the Night of the Living Dead, and I remember it hit me when it hit me. The ending, I remember being like, "Why?" I didn't understand it. I was like,
WTF?
Yeah, like total, like just totally mind fucked. Like as a little kid, being like, "I don't get it. Why would they do that?" Like not even like that's like he's like I just totally messed with me. And to this day, like I'm still like, why? Like, but you understand, you're right. Everything is, and it does, and that's the thing I love about horror movies. They do kind of tug at certain things. They the strings.
Yeah.
They do push things. I mean, I got the Alien poster back here, and that's a female protagonist. And you know.
Oh, the original Alien is brilliant as well, for sure. Yeah.
And then she's like, you know, Ellen Ripley is just a badass. So it's like,
to
me, it's more like the story will always kind of come through with everything. But like, yeah, like you got like the Sharknado kind of, I don't know if that's horror, more sci-fi or fantasy. But you have stuff like that, which is, I'll watch it, popcorn flick, but it's
I mean, it's good for some laughs, for sure.
How do we get this far? Like, it's like crazy. Like, whoa, where are we? What am I tripping on? Let me get on some of these.
Well, and that's Alien, man. The one you brought up, Alien, it does the same thing. That's all the 70s movies. It's so funny too, because Alien, unlike these others we're talking about, like Texas Chainsaw, or like you brought up at the beginning of the show, Hills Have Eyes, that were quite low budget. Alien had a high budget. I mean, they went all out with the special effects, with the xenomorph, you know, but it actually has the same core as these other movies, where for the first time we're seeing characters we normally don't see in the lead, like you say, like Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley, and like, dude, Yaphet Kotto, and let's see, Harry Dean Stanton. Dude, I love how it you know, all the sci-fi movies up until that point, very slick, very clean, and we see that happen again in the 80s and 90s. 70s, it was very unique because it's very gritty and grimy. I mean, you remember that their spaceship, most of the time it looks like it's breaking down.
Yeah.
You know, these guys are just working class blue collar characters. They just want to get the hell off the ship, get their job done, get their paycheck. So once again, even Alien has this gritty, realism to it, even though it's a sci-fi movie,
Man,
I mean, probably the closest one in the 80s, maybe Blade Runner. That one's not.
Oh, dude,
that one's
yeah.
grittier, but
yeah, that's
the original Blade Runner. But
one.
a lot of them get very slick because I think Star Wars was kind of where you went from the grit more back into kind of more of the, how do I put it? I don't want the Star Wars people to jump on me, but you know what I'm saying? That's what they always say, is that Star Wars onwards, people were like, wait a minute, this is more, it's uplifting, it's more clean, you know what I mean? I mean, not to say, Darth Vader is still formidable, but you get what I'm saying? It's much different than a movie like Alien, And I think that's, you kind of see in the 80s, then from there on into the 90s, and really into today, that's kind of the beginning of what I would call more like the big budget, just lift people up. You know what I'm trying to say? The crowd-pleasing blockbusters, versus the stuff that's kind of going to be a little bit darker, more subtle, more gritty, more realistic, which is, once again, the reason I rep for the 70s so much.
Yeah. I mean, also, too, I feel like 70 movies have that sense of, like, you feel like it could happen to you in a way. Like
exactly.
It's not a hard like reality to be like, oh man, that could, like, Hills Have Eyes is a horrible like scenario.
Oh, dude, for sure.
Yeah, and it's also like backwards country and whatnot. But even like having someone like Harry Stanton in a movie like where he, like, in the future, there's gonna be people that look normal. Like no one's gonna. He has that everyman look, And even when he dies, it's kind of like, oh, cats right there. Like, oh, I got the, it's like it breaks you down a little bit. But I think so that his death, like all the deaths in Alien, are very, because you get to kind of hang a ride with these people. Same thing with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You really get to know them. Halloween, Halloween. We did it on our podcast, Side by Side Movies. Ben Garrett and I, and when we did it, I was like, when I really broke down Halloween, I was like, wow, this is a stalker movie. This is a cat and mouse. Like,
sure.
And it feels so, like the way John Carpenter does it. You even feel like that ding when that little ping. You understand? Like sometimes I would just hear it and be like, okay, whatever. But when I was getting in the movie, I was like, oh wow, this is where it's at. This is where it's gonna get you. And
dude, and Carpenter, master of minimalism, man. On both, and I think that's, well, I mean, and The Thing's great too, just in a different way. He goes a little more over the top with the effects, but that's kind of the storyline demanded it, I guess. But dude, like you brought up with Halloween, and another great one right before that, Assault on Precinct 13.
Dude, that's
even though it's technically a crime film, dude, it plays like a horror film straight up. I mean, it's very menacing, claustrophobic, and he's the master of minimalism. I mean, his synth scores, they seem simple, but like you said, they burrow into your subconscious.
Yeah.
And Halloween, just like Texas Chainsaw, there's actually very little blood shown on the screen.
Yeah.
If you recall the Michael Myers murders in the first, in the original from '78, hell, there's like, I mean, I'm even trying to remember if there's any blood shown. I mean, it's all done in the shadows. It's all very artfully crafted. Yeah.
The dude gets impaled on the wall. You don't see no blood.
Yes.
There's a strangling.
Yes.
There's a strangling.
Yes.
There's a strangling. Yeah. Like he doesn't really. Yeah. But let's see. I got some comments here. I think we're about to have let's see, we go. Real horror stories get into your mind. Gore is just fluff. That's what Jaime Nola says. He's right.
Agreed, Jaime. Yeah.
J.W. Cole, one of the great indie escapers. He has Generation Movie, great show with him and Rich. It says, hey, The Sentinel is one of the most underrated 70s era devil and demonic movies. Are you a fan? Are you a fan of The Sentinel, Mark?
Yeah, JW, man, great mention. That is one that I think gets overshadowed because everybody wants to talk about The Exorcist and The Omen. But The Sentinel is actually just as creepy. You could almost argue even creepier because it's more about what you don't see, in the shadows of the building. With Exorcist, I think that's kind of almost the way I feel. I know I'm repping a lot for 70s horror, but since JW brought up Sentinel, I actually am going to give an unpopular opinion here. I actually think Exorcist 3, and generally I think sequels tend to be inferior, but I think Exorcist 3, directed by William Peter Blatty, he's the one who wrote the original novel, I think it's actually scarier than the original Exorcist. I think because with the Exorcist, Linda Blair, she twists her head around and levitates. She vomits, I think it's just, it ends up subjecting itself to parody a bit. The Omen as well. Sometimes if you watch The Omen now, there's some scenes that kind of make you chuckle. because they get kind of so over the top.
Yeah,
but I mean, with Exorcist 3, a lot of it, and George C. Scott's just a great actor, so he sells it. He's great in The Changeling as well. But in Exorcist 3, a lot of it is just the creepiness, the tension of what's in the shadows. And JW nailed it with the Sentinel, is that you don't really have any particularly iconic images like the Linda Blair spinning her head around and vomiting. You don't have like I think, doesn't The Omen have I think The Omen, doesn't it have a dog that gets demonic? I don't know. Anyway, but I might be thinking it. Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of really funny over the top scenes. Oh, the decapitation. Yeah, the guy gets decapitated.
That too. Yes. Yeah, that's
the plate glass. Oh, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that makes The Omen a bad movie, but I just, it's more just, it has those moments that you're like, wow, did that just happen? But it's not necessarily scary. It's more just kind of a brief shock.
Yeah.
But the Sentinel, man, JW's right. For those of you who haven't seen the Sentinel, check that out, because that is definitely very creepy. Arguably, maybe even creepier than Omen and Exorcist in some ways. Yeah.
Let's see real quick. I was gonna get to the comments because I got Amy in here. Say hello, Amy. How's it going? I have Amy said Happy Manic Monday. I have Jaime Nola say The Birds 1963, real creep. I did have someone in the green room, but they stepped out a second. I was gonna have I had a good old CJ send me the link. I have some questions from JW, but let's see if he was in here and just took off. Let's see. Amy says she loved Blade Runner. That's always a good one.
Oh yeah,
it's always a nice movie. Here we go. So, like I said, my Manic Mondayz is interactive vlog, and anything can happen, and it just happens. Something's gonna happen. I want you to, Mark. I want you to meet J.W. Caldwell. He is our movie guy, so I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna get along. What's up, J.W.?
I'm J.W. What's going on, man?
How you doing, Mark?
Doing all right. Nice to meet you.
Watching the show, and it's a pleasure meeting you. We do a little show on Wednesdays called Generation Movie, where basically we do deep dives. We do deep dives on movies. So it was like I was looking at your page and stuff, and CJ said you were coming on tonight, and I started thinking about 70s movies, 70s like horror films, right? And the thing that I think you were talking about, like the realism, the grittiness, definitely there. And we kind of lost it a little bit in the 80s. It kind of became cheesy, goofy, right? But like something like The Sentinel, which is this dark, dank, terrifying movie that my dad used to talk about. He used to run a movie theater. He used to talk about The Sentinel as like, it didn't do as well as like something like The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby or stuff that did really well. But he thinks the ending of The Sentinel is one of the most perfect horror movie endings, because it's not a bad ending. It's the ending that was it's designated for that character. And I think one of the things that comes out of the 70s is this. It's a minimalist. Whatever is gonna happen to these characters is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And the inevitability of it. It's kind of like the inevitability of like all the changes in the 60s coming in through, and they come through in the horror films of the 70s in this, the world's out to get you, and it may grab you, it may catch you. And I think that's one of the most fascinating things about it, is that I have a very bright light. I'm sorry about that. I got Gremlins. You got to be careful. I just got back from a cruise too, so I'm a little bit out of it still. But I think that what you were saying is perfect. And I think when we got into some of the 80s movies, while we love them, you can love, Nightmare on Elm Street and the subsequent sequels that, more or less are okay. Some are better than others. 3 is better than, most of them. But there's a silliness to them that isn't. The 70s was like everything's deathly serious.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you know what, man? That's probably why, like CJ was saying, that I think some modern day viewers or contemporary viewers, it sort of throws them off. Like you said, the minimalism, it's more slow paced, it's more serious. Like they're like, wait a minute, what the hell is that?
It has a real life feel to it. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
Things are actually happening to the characters.
Yeah.
Like CJ, you've never seen The Sentinel, right?
No, I'm actually looking at it right now. I'm looking at it. It's like The Sentinel. It's 1977.
It is a terrifying movie.
Yeah.
It is. It's very underrated.
It's incredibly underrated, but it is it is right in the flavor of The Exorcist, right in the flavor of Rosemary.
Yeah.
Rosemary's Baby is probably its closest.
I agree. Yeah.
I think there's a reason why
I just think it's one of those movies. What was that?
I think there's a reason why I kind of remember staying away from the 70s, because it's Rosemary's Babies, The Exorcist, The Omen. These movies scared the crap out of me, man.
That's what I was going to ask Matt.
The demon possession craze, the Satanism craze.
And then Night of the Demons brought me back.
And the D&D craze and all of the stuff that kind of blends in together that gets us to the 80s. But the 70s are where like the demon movies are. Like almost like, you know, you have The Exorcist and then you have Sentinel. You have a couple other things where I think it's one of the defining characteristics of the 70s.
Oh, yeah. And you know what I think, too, is JW, that I think, and CJ, I think that two things I'll say. One, I love the fact that the films, I would say 68 to, I mean, this is kind of hard to pinpoint, but you know what I mean? Yeah, 68 to like, I don't know, let's say, 76? I'm going to say like 81 maybe even. I was going to say, because what's so fascinating, I was going to say that like, okay, it seems like in the 70s, the films were much more, and this starts with Night of the Living Dead, 68. That's one that kicks it all off, is that like they're much more influenced by what was actually happening in society. And, you know, I think the Manson family murders, all that really crept into the films, the serial killings. But I was going to say, too, that I think the rating system, no joke, we were bringing up, CJ was talking about Gremlins, and it's so funny because I feel like from 68, when the R rating first comes into the rating system, to it's basically about 84 when PG-13 came in, that PG-13 was partially responsible for horror movies like becoming cheesier. I mean, they were still churning out the R-rated movies, but it's like they began to, at a certain point, I think it's like 84 onwards, they're like, okay, I think we found a formula, let's market this more, like, let's make it more fun.
Yeah, the key defining characteristic is one set of boobs or two set of boobs.
Yeah. Because even in the early 80s, it's interesting. The early 80s, you still have like a 70s hangover. You've got films like Maniac, The Beyond, The Evil Dead, The Thing. I mean, The Thing has a bleak ending, right? They're sitting there and they're either going to kill each other or freeze to death.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, I feel like it's mid 80s onwards, basically mid to late 80s onwards. The Reagan re-election onwards, we see like kind of let's make horror movies this fun kind of like, it doesn't have to be serious anymore. And that's kind of where it sort of, and then the 90s I think was even worse. The 90s, I have a lot of criticism for the 90s because, and I apologize if you guys like this movie. I remember CJ said it's okay to offend.
Yeah.
Scream, dear God, no. Scream is where everything, I'm sorry CJ if you like it. But for me, Scream, I'm just, you know, and I know it has its fans, but Scream, Wes Craven, God bless you, you put out some good stuff, but I feel like Scream was one of those that just really started the trend of like, let's be as like funny and ironic as possible and like spoof, you know what I mean? Like we're going to do throwbacks to previous movies, and it just became so, I don't know.
How about this, Mark? Look, I'm a big Scream fan, so I understand.
Yeah.
But what I would say
I know. I'm in the minority here, probably.
What I would say is I think the interesting
You guys are like, you're not welcome back here.
Forget it, Mark. You're done. You're dead to us.
Yeah, no, I'm out of here.
What I was going to say, I think Scream, one of the things that might be like on your mind when you're looking at it and you're thinking about it, Scream pulls the curtain back.
Yeah.
And as a craftsman that's showing you, it's a magician showing you his tricks.
Yeah.
So if you're a big fan of horror films, some people look at Scream and go, I don't want to know about the fucking tricks, man. I don't want to know how the fucking sausage is made. I just want a delicious sausage sandwich once in a while.
That's true.
I think that's part of when somebody tells me they don't like Scream, it's like, you're a big horror fan. That's what it is. Because the big horror fans go, you're making fun of something I love. You're putting rules on things. You're moving things around. You're moving pieces. You're showing your cards.
Yeah.
And I think
and to be fair, I think that I do see like what you're saying, JW, that and to be fair, I mean, if you think about it, everything that came like maybe let's say 10 years before Scream, like we were just saying, the slasher genre became so formulaic that Craven was just probably thinking, hell, I'm going to poke fun at this because it's, you know, but I think that for me, it's not so much I don't know if it's so much I don't mind the poking fun as much. I just feel like some of the characters in it are so like they're just, I don't know.
They're killable,
the characters
Mark.
just, oh gosh.
Well,
they're very killable. That's true.
They're very killable.
I have no sympathy for any of the characters in Scream.
I'll tell you this though, when you come off from like that early '90s of 90210, Saved by the Bell.
Oh yeah,
because I was growing up with this as it's going, you start getting She's All That, and then it starts going with all those, and then like Scream kind of kills those kind of characters.
Yeah, you're saying you have to have something to balance out the
I would also say, Mark, the thing that happens in the '90s that's very different from the '70s. Like we were talking about, the interconnected pieces of the 70s movies, like the Sentinel is a perfect example. It's somebody, she makes a life decision doesn't work out, and then however she's impacted, it's all her decisions up to that point. The 90s horror films tend to get into the area where you don't have a choice. It's just going to happen to you. Like Final Destination and I think that's
almost more like absurdist, right? Like rather than
I'm going to be driving down the road and a bunch of logs are going to fall off a car. I don't have a choice.
And then you know what it probably is? It's probably the philosophy side in me or the literary side in me that I guess some of it. It's like I'm just like no, but this doesn't even. I have no reason to care about any of these characters. It's just it's so absurd. But to be fair, the 80s started that. I can't totally blame the 90s because a lot of the 80s slashers did that.
Another thing that's happening, and maybe because you're doing these 70s movies on Instagram, what has happened is a bunch of people have grown up with these 70s horror films, like you and I. Not necessarily CJ, because CJ's a youngin'.
Which is funny because me and him are the same age.
Well, I didn't know that.
I'm just an old soul.
I'm stuck in the 60s. I'm old as hell, Mark. What I was going to say, though, is a lot of people who grew up watching the 70s movies, they're making movies now. So
I know. Like, the remakes. What is going on?
Well, the remakes is crazy. The remakes are crazy. But I would say something like The Black Phone, which incorporates some of the 70s style. It's a little slower. It's a little more deliberate. You know what I mean? It has a protagonist that you're rooting for. Which I
haven't seen that yet. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna dig it. I would say like after I'll exchange email with you. You tell me after you see it, you'd be like, no, it's pretty good, pretty good. But like I didn't want to get on and steal CJ's show. I just wanted to come on and say, hey, there are some great movies from the 70s. I grew up watching them, and CJ running the show is he's one of the best kids on this network, and I joined this network specifically because of people like CJ and Brandon and Gabe and Joe and. Not necessarily David, but you know what I mean. No, I'm kidding.
Now I'm curious about David.
No, David's hilarious. He's
the reason
he's a funny guy. He actually is responsible for me coming on. But the show we do on Wednesday nights is a deep dive. So we do like production, we do box office, we do critical reviews, critical mass, and then a legacy.
Oh, great!
And a lot of the legacies that we're doing 82 right now. We're doing summer 82. And we're going to finish the year off with all the movies of 82.
Go for it. What are you doing now?
Yeah, we're doing Night Shift this week, by the way. Thank you for the plug. I appreciate it. We're doing Night Shift. So we're doing all the genres, all the different things. But I think you're right. The 70s were this time when it was like the world was a scary place and the world was changing. And these filmmakers came out of nowhere making movies for like pennies on the dollar. And just like, you know what I mean? And CJ was right. He was onto something earlier. And you said it, I think, too. The violence in Halloween, you can almost show Halloween on AMC and not cut anything.
Yep. They probably would be more willing to cut the brief flashes of nudity rather than the violence.
I don't know. PJ Soul's boobs are really nice, Mark.
Yeah.
A good boob set will get you a long way with me.
I just mean, how American media is. They usually get more squeamish about nudity than they do about the violence.
What about the giant guy sticking somebody to a wall? Oh, no, that's okay.
Yeah, they're like, that's fine. That's fine.
The boobs got to go. What about the violent choking of a woman in a car? Perfectly acceptable.
Oh, that's where the Europeans were in the reverse of us, man. I mean, shit. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it didn't earn a BBFC certificate until wasn't it 99 or something? I mean, it was outrageous that it took that long for them to say, oh, you could show this. The Europeans don't mind sex though as much. They're the reverse of the Americans.
And then the subsequent, you're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the minimalist beauty of it. And then you get to all these other Texas Chainsaw Massacres. The 80s one is particularly
over the top. Yeah,
too, is over the top. And then you get
very cartoonish. Yeah,
yeah, you get the Leatherface, and then I mean Dennis Hopper with dueling chainsaws. Not that I mind it.
Yeah, it was. It's like we say. It's like the way I describe it is it's like popcorn and jelly beans versus like Texas Chainsaw Massacre would be like, to use your sausage metaphor, would be like, I'm gonna sit down and have this like big old plate of, I don't know, I'm thinking just like this down home meal of like mashed potatoes and gravy. And,
if you're talking Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you go sausage because you don't know where. But then you get to the 90s, they do Leatherface. Leatherface is rated X for a good portion of its, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not even, you get in there. I remember I think I went on a date with somebody, like, yes, I had a date. It's true. And then I basically went on a date. We went in and it was like, I'm watching it going, there's nothing to this.
Yeah.
How is this
Why did this receive an X? Yeah.
How? You know, but it's an interesting time. And I remember my dad, we watched all the demon movies from the 70s, like everything that came out that was just, you know, my dad going, maybe that stuff's real. I don't know. And like as a younger person watching them going, what do you mean you don't know if they're real or not? That could happen. Like, and that's the thing, like something like the Sentinel, it blows your mind because you're just like,
yeah.
Like, and then you hear all the stuff about the Catholic Church afterwards, like as we progress through our lives, where you're just like, you know, they do have secret apartments, and there are exorcists, and they are Vatican trained, and like, and you're just like, what?
Secret societies.
That's what I'm saying. And let me ask you a question: how about the Conjurings? Do you like the Conjurings movies? Not all of them, obviously.
Oh, once again, you do not want to know. Not a fan. No, you know, like I say, probably, I think for me, a lot of I can't really put my finger on it. It's just that I don't want to, because I'm going to sound lazy myself saying this, but I think a lot of it is just a little too over the top for me. Like it becomes comedic. Like it's hard for me to take it seriously.
Yeah.
And I think especially the Annabelle doll and all that, you know, and I really have always felt that way too about, you know, Child's Play. I mean, they're fun, but they don't have really the level of, I guess I'm just a serious guy. No, no, I can enjoy the ridiculous stuff for sure. But I don't know. I feel like the 80s, I'm actually growing more fond of the 80s as I get older, but the more 80s, recent decades, I'm still more critical of.
Yeah. The 80s like I was telling you, we're doing a deep dive in the 80s.
Yeah.
The 80s, 82 in particular, this summer that we're ending 40 years later, right? Summer of 82, we were talking about on the show. It's so magnificent.
Oh yeah.
You know,
it
like,
is.
You know, Blade Runner, E.T., Star Trek 2, Poltergeist. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
Poltergeist is great. Yeah. Yeah. The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing, man.
Blade Runner, you know, Conan the Barbarian.
Blade Runner is,
Conan came out this summer as well. So we've been hitting all of them. But it's the 70s were nice. They were amazing movies, and like you show somebody Halloween and they're like, oh, I need more violence. And it's like, do you? Because he's creepy as fuck. Yeah. He is terrifying. That little kid looking out the window and just watching some guy carry a body around a house. I still get into, you know, like just how terrifying it is. CJ, I feel like I've stolen your show. I didn't mean to.
This is my gift.
You're adding you're adding all good points, JW.
I'm taking it all in. I'm like, all right, I'm taking it. I'm basking in all this info.
I can talk about this shit all day. It's like I'm
dude, and movies. Atmosphere. I feel like that's the thing that I think that atmosphere and realistic characters, I think, is one of the things that kind of you feel that fade away more and more each decade with horror movies. Like it gets
peeled away. It gets stripped away from it. But like that, when you're watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I know Gabe has you guys had this big thing going on with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house and everything, and great stuff that you've done with it. And what I would say is, when you're watching that movie, it feels hot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like you're just like you're watching these kids in the van, and you're just like, ugh.
He said it. I mean that's one thing that Alan has been always said about that. It was always super hot in the van. They had no AC, and then recently he was saying like Toby Hooper's cigar was in there like with them too. So it just adds more heat to the more gas to the fire.
Yeah, but it's not just that. There's a gloom. There's a hang. There's the 70s horror films gave way to the 80s horror films, and the 80s filmmakers kind of just went, we can't be this fucking bleak anymore. We did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have Freddy, and he's gonna start out scary, and then he's gonna become a comedian, and he's gonna host his own show where he's doing comedic horror takes. And
you had that. I think you had a Friday the 13th show too, right? Like everything became like a franchise,
but had nothing to do with Jason.
The Friday the 13th, the series. It actually, in its own right, was actually a good show.
Yeah.
It had more to do with it. It was kind of like a Needful Things. Basically, there was a store that was selling trinkets.
Yeah.
And the people from the store realized that their uncle was evil, and they had to go in and stop him from selling all the stuff. So they had to get all the stuff back and catalog it, and it was all like nightmarish shit. But it's one of those shows where you just go, meh.
But I noticed that, if you guys notice that, it seems like the same way that the rating systems, like I bookend it with like 68 and 84. I think the same way the rating systems, the introduction like of those rating systems kind of affected how films were made. It seems like too that the same thing, like you brought up, JW, same thing happening to horror happened to all the movie genres. That like pretty much a lot of people blame, I know CJ brought up Jaws earlier. A lot of people blame Spielberg and Lucas, right? Because it's basically they hit like an incredibly successful formula, and they're like, everybody wanted to franchise everything. In the 70s, there were no franchises. There were just standalone films. But 80s onward, man, and we see it now at its most extreme, right? I mean, everything is franchised to the most like extreme degree. And you're just like, come on, man. How many series of this comic book movie are we going to have?
There was a real interesting thing on, and you mentioned this, but there's a real interesting thing. I think it was on Hot Wings. I think it was on that show where people eat hot wings. Matt Damon was explaining the movie business, and he basically said the reason you have franchises is because we can't afford to make regular movies. And he goes, I'll give you a perfect example. No, he was talking about it. He goes, I'll give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
I made this movie Beyond the Candelabra. It's about two guys that are in love with each other. One of them is Liberace, but it's a movie I wanted to make. I was fascinated by the story. It cost me $50 million. When we got to the next
Christ,
step,
that's a big budget.
It was like very expensive movie. And then I went, and then he goes, well, then I got to the next step, and they said, okay, if you want to release it to theaters, it's going to cost you another $25 million. And then if you want to make money, you're going to need to make at least $80 million to break even or make more money.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, and at that point, we sold it to HBO.
Yeah.
And he's like, it became a television movie. He goes, because the only movies that are making money are the $100 million movies.
You're saying that there's not really as much room for those like there was in the 70s, for example, those independent.
There's not enough room. There's not enough room for anything to breathe.
Yeah.
What are your have you done this, CJ? What are his top? Have you done the top? What are your top five? Do you have a top five?
I'll go there.
Yeah, that's a great. Do you have a top five? Do you?
Oh wow! Now, are we talking films in general, or particular genre, or particular decade?
You're 70s horror film guy on Instagram. You got.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If people are watching the show, I would assume that they would want to know, what do you reckon? I have a cat in the room. I'm sorry.
CJ's probably like, JW took over the interview. He's my interviewer now.
Nah, I know where I belong.
Oh, CJ. This is why I don't come on shows, CJ.
No, I'd be happy to give you my top five. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do all three of us want to do top five of the 70s, or
if I get five, do your top five 70s. What are your top five 70s in no particular order, or unless you have a main one?
Oh, I got an order. I'm that OCD for sure.
Okay, what's 5 through 1?
Number 1, I mean, you knew this was coming, CJ. Number 1 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 74. And we're just doing 70s, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, that seems fair.
Okay, 70. Number 2, man, 74 for me was the high watermark of that decade, Black Christmas. Man, Black Christmas.
Oh, Black Christmas is great.
It's one of those that, I mean, it just succeeds on every level. Sharp screenplay, and I'm talking about the original, of course, not the from 74. Sharp screenplay.
There are two awful remakes, Mark. Two.
Yeah, that's true.
One.
There were two.
There's two awful remarks.
Yes, there were two bad remarks. But I would say it just succeeds on every level. It's got a very atmospheric score and cinematography. The setting is fantastic. Very claustrophobic. All takes place in the one house. Arguably, and as much as I dig Texas Chainsaw, I put maybe it at number one just because of its grittiness and just how how unclean you feel after watching it. Right? Like we said, the sweatiness. Yeah. Despite that, though, even though Black Christmas is number two, it's almost tied because I think Olivia Hussey as Jessica Bradford is maybe the best final girl in that film. I mean, we've got her tackling abortion. I mean, right when Roe v. Wade's first happening, we've got her, pretty much defending herself in the end of the film, right? She's not like a typical weak female character. She's a very strong female character. And then, man, probably the part that's the best of that film, and I've rarely seen another horror film do this. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, is, the killer is never found. We're never even actually shown the killer. We're only given the killer's voice. And I mean, at the end, we're led to believe that, she might not survive. We're not sure who's going to kill next. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty disturbing.
I just want to point out, you're talking about this movie and it's beautiful. The original Black Christmas is beautiful. And I need to point out that two full cast and crews could not remake a 70s movie. They could not find their way out of the paper bag to simply just remake the movie in the way it was.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an amazing.
Well, you know what they did?
Testament. Yeah. It's an amazing testament. And the last one that just came out is absolutely like.
That's pretty bad.
It's not Black Christmas. Call it anything else you want to call it. It just happens that the murders occur around Christmas. It's not like.
Yeah.
It's just okay. Finish your list. I'm so sorry.
It's basically you're saying it's just happened. It's coincidental. Yeah. And JW, man, I think the recurring theme here, like we talked about earlier with CJ, is that, Black Christmas, the original, the reason they weren't able to successfully remake it, this is the same for Texas Chainsaw, Hills Have Eyes, all these 70s movies they tried to remake, is they make three mistakes, really. One, the characters become so obnoxious, you can't even, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, at least there were well-written characters.
Yes.
Yeah, the characters become so obnoxious, it's hard for you to even really care about them. So that's one mistake. Second mistake, is they go for the gore, right? So all the subtlety goes out the window. And then third mistake, and this kind of goes along with that, is minimalism, right? Is that we notice this with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remakes, the Black Christmas remake, all these, they overly explain what's happening with the villain. Once you do that, the mystery, the horror, the terror is gone. You're just like, okay, he did this because of this. A equals B. Why should I care? Like, why is this going to haunt me? It's not,
like the buzz about the latest Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right?
Yeah.
There's a sequence on a bus that's for a gore hound or for people who like horror movies. It's hilarious because everybody's taking pictures of them with selfies and shit, and it's hilarious. But it is not it's not as effective as chasing down a girl and hitting her with a meat hook and just carrying her away.
Yeah.
Where you don't even see the blood. He's cutting people in shred. Like, there's body parts flying. Yeah. It's not as effective as just that one meat hook going into the shoulder and just kind of like lifting her up or hitting somebody in the stomach and lifting them up. And it's just a weird, it's a weird minimalist thing where it's a reality thing where you're like, because the shit in the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre is just like, there's not a single person who would have stayed on the fucking bus.
Yeah.
With all the people that have come and gone in this world right now, where weird shit happens and people just like, I got to get the fuck out of here. Like, that's the original. Yeah. Like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they can't get away. They're stuck.
Yeah.
But the people in the new one are going there.
Yeah, they're going to the stuck.
And JW and CJ, I was going to say this too. This applies both to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and to Black Christmas, the originals from '74. Is that another thing people tend to forget? And I think JW might have mentioned this actually, is that the killings are not the focus. You remember, just like in real life, the killings are over like snap of your fingers. They're gone. Instead, what we remember being some of the most disturbing scenes from both of those films is the psychological, right? I mean, everybody remembers the most terrifying.
A child looking out a window and seeing a big man with a mask and asking, "Hey, you were talking about the boogeyman earlier, right?" Because what is the boogeyman? Oh, no. But I'm just saying,
in the movie
when he's talking to Jamie Lee Curtis, and he's like, "Boogeyman." We're talking about the boogeyman.
Oh, you're talking about Halloween. Sorry, I got mixed up. I thought we were still. Yeah.
Stream of consciousness at times, Mark.
No, it's okay.
And so you have a child looking out the window, and his representation of the boogeyman becomes Michael Myers, right?
Yeah.
Carrying a woman, and he goes over to Jamie Lee Curtis. He's like, "There's somebody outside." Sure, there is, kid. Sure, there is.
Yeah, dismisses him. Yeah.
Right, way more terrifying than anything we can come up with now, where it's right in front of us, and again, people are taking pictures and selfies.
Yeah, no, I agree, JW. Like that, it's not the killings aren't the focus. Yeah,
right. He's 6'2" with a giant chainsaw. You're telling me you're gonna stay on the bus?
Yeah, like, cancel him.
Yeah,
cancel.
Well, and like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre and in Black Christmas, like. The parts to me, I don't know about you guys, but the scenes to me that are the most like still stick with me is not the killings, but when she's being psychologically tortured by them at the dinner table. You remember? Yeah. Or for example, in Black Christmas when they're being it's psychologically tortured isn't the right word, but they're being psychologically mind fucked essentially, to use a blunt term, by the caller. The caller is just really, he's terrorizing them over the phone. We're also seeing he's losing his mind in the attic. We're kind of, we're really kind of wondering what's happening with this character. And that to me is what's most scary. I mean, even for example, none of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remakes or sequels have a scene as effective, for example, as when the cook beats her with the broom, right? Yeah. That's not, I mean, when we compare that to sequels and remakes, the others are much more violent than that. All he's doing is hitting her with the broom, but we're disturbed because we thought this was a benevolent figure. You know what I mean? He's like, "Oh, come on in," and then he's completely betrayed her trust. He's acting like this abusive father figure.
Even that trope, right? Even that trope gets mauled in the 80s and 90s. The old man that's don't go up there. Like they get made fun of. They're drunks, right?
Yeah. Don't listen to them. All right. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna take the reins.
I know what you're saying. They're not
as
menacing later on. Yeah.
I'm gonna take the reins from this show. JW, I gotta let you go, but I do have some parting words here from you. Amy says, "What's up, JW?"
Hi, Amy. How are you?
And then Jaime Nola says, "JW saved the show."
Oh, that's not true.
I believe so. And then we got this guy Joe Ridgely. He says something. JW with the cruise tan. Oh.
Yeah, dude. It's not even funny. I got a haircut before the cruise. And it's like I went up on the deck. Yeah. Oh my God! It is the worst thing because you can't put aloe in it.
Yeah,
like it's the worst. And like you touch, you're like
your hair hurts. You can't put your head in the pillow either.
Yeah, my head hurts. Yeah, but it was fun. Mark, we're gonna have to get together again, and we'll get on with me, you, and CJ, and just we can riff about horror films and what we like and what we don't like. Maybe we can do we can work on doing an Instagram thing where the three of us work together and try to piece together best of the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, the aughts, I should say.
Yeah, and sorry, I got to rambling so much that I didn't even give the top 5. I'll just say the other ones are Silent Night, Bloody Night, not to be confused with Silent Night, Deadly Night from 84, but Silent Night, Bloody Night, it's from 72. And if you haven't seen it, it is slow-paced, it's true, but it's very atmospheric. It actually influenced Black Christmas. The caller terrorizing the people over the phone, the Christmas setting, the cold winter atmosphere. So highly recommend that one, Silent Night, Bloody Night, 72. On the non-American side, I highly recommend Valerie and Her Week of Wonders. It's a Czech film from 1970. Nice. Picture Alice in Wonderland on acid with some eroticism and vampires and witchcraft.
Nice.
And that's Valerie and Her Week of Wonders.
It sounds like boobies and darkness. I would say the other, I mean, the obvious ones are Halloween, Jaws for me, Exorcist, Suspiria. I would also.
Suspiria is great. Yes.
I would also throw out the Sentinel. If you've never seen the Sentinel, I highly recommend
Sentinel is very underrated.
It is, and the killer, the ending is a showstopper. Just gonna leave it. You get all the way through the movie. It rewards you with one of the best 70s endings. And the other one I would say, Mark, it's a little underrated, but it's really good. The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's a creepy one.
That one. Yeah,
that's a great movie.
That's a creepy one.
Yeah,
yeah, and that one influenced, I think, Jason's look in Friday 13th Part 2, right? I've heard that they borrowed the sack. Yeah, the whole.
Absolutely. Steve Dash was a good friend of Dave Madison, and one of the cool Jasons that I've met in my life. I'll get out of here, CJ. Thank you so much, Mark. It was a pleasure talking to you.
No, JW, you rock, man. Appreciate the banter.
I'm gonna look you up on where can we find you on Instagram? Where's it at?
70's horror movies.
Sweet. I will look it up tonight, and I'll send you a Twitter link. We'll get together. We'll talk. And if you have a show, I'll be happy to come on. We'll ramble, all three of us.
Hell yeah, sounds great.
I think everybody.
Bye.
What's that again?
Generation movie on Wednesday.
There we go.
Generation movie. All right, I'll check it out.
All right, later, JW. Nah, that's cool, man. I love having him on. He's man,
JW.
He has excitement talking about this, and so are you. So I'm just taking it in. Like I don't really care at this point. I mean, it's like I've let both. Like I've had two consciences in my head just go at him. Like go for it. Y'all talk. It's fun. Yeah. He was getting excited. Like he wants to bring you back and stuff or do something. I mean that's great. I mean he does. He knows so much. He would be like I said. He's the Indie Escapes network. He's the movie guy. So he's our. We need somebody we need to reference something. We just go straight to JW. I don't even Google it. I just go straight to him. It's so much easier.
Dude, yeah, thank you for introducing me to this network, man. Seems like you guys have some cool shows, yeah.
Yeah, we try to... the thing that got me from... I don't want to keep the show going too long. I don't want to keep too much of your time. But I did like the fact that the way you have your setup, you have it kind of like movie video store style, where you have the YouTube just set up with all the movies. I thought that was a cool concept. And then the way you talk about them, the way you promote them, I thought that was really nice. I was like, okay, it's cool. It's kind of like it was kind of like a bubble you've created, and it's kind of like feeding all the movies. And I like it. I mean, I like that now. I don't have an excuse that there are all these 70 horror movies that I get to go through. And
I got hundreds on the list, man. Yeah, I've got some non-horror on there too. It's mainly horror, but yeah, I do the same. Yeah, so like the YouTube playlist you mentioned, I've just got it. It's collated from various users on YouTube. It's because I'm OCD like this, I guess. Well, I don't know if that's the right term, but I'm a cataloger. I've got them in chronological and alphabetical order. And pretty much the way I run the page on 70's horror movies is I'll occasionally do a themed post. But most of the time, man, I'm just doing the release dates. Like, hey, check it out. Do you guys remember this one? Released August such and such date, 1970, And people usually are digging it, because they're like, wait a minute, I don't remember this one.
Well, I do like that because it also keeps it relevant because... Yeah, it keeps it like for people. I mean, for somebody to remake a movie with from another movie from the 60s is kind of, I think it'd be easy to do now. But if we have something reference from and be like, hey, they took this movie from verbatim for what they did, because it's weird to see that there's movies that are just going away, non-existent anymore. To me, I'd be like, why don't we have all movies exist? Like on Side by Side, we don't give away. If you make a movie, you don't get a 0 on your score because we're like, well, you made a movie. It's so damn hard. You at least get a 1 or a 2. I do have some comments here from Brandon E. Brooks. He's IOU, Independent Industry Outlaws United, on Friday nights. John Carpenter's Halloween is in a class of its own. Assault on Precinct 13 is very underrated. The Thing is on its another level. And then he has Gotta Show Some Love, another underrated classic.
Oh, Tourist Trap, yes.
Trap. And I have some love for The Burning. So
yeah, Tourist Trap, man, I agree with him. That's one that follows directly in that Texas Chainsaw Hills Have Eyes lineage, which has been done to death now, but it was done very effectively back then, which is, the youngsters in the backwoods, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they stumble on a house of horrors, basically.
That kind of, that trope there, you're right. Yeah. Even the Deliverance kind of feling, like it's like,
oh my gosh, Deliverance is disturbing for sure.
Yes, it's a horror movie for sure. But, other than that, I will have to ask, because this is the time of the show where I have to ask you, just because this is what we do here at My Manic Mondayz.
Yeah, sure.
What is your manic media? Now, manic media could be like how you unwind, or what do you do when you just kind of want to, when you want to de-stress, or you want to unplug. Some people like to, play Dungeons and Dragons. Some people listen to records. Some people write. Some people, it's just, what is it that Mark, what is it that you like to do to unwind? What's your manic media?
Hell, man. I don't want to sound predictable, but I mean, well, okay, I'll bring up one that I didn't mention yet, which is definitely music. I love to collect vinyl. but I am going to sound predictable once again. Some of my favorite. I mean, I do dig new music, of course. There's a lot of new music I dig, and 90s and so on and so forth. But I really dig psychedelic genre, especially 60s and 70s. I love the record designs, the production, just a lot of the stuff that went into some of those records in the 60s and 70s. And then, to unwind, man, once again, going to sound predictable, but it's true. There's something about the 70s, and not just horror, but I want to call it the, man, I don't know. Once again, I hate to overuse this term, but the grittiness that just gives me the coziest feeling, man. Like, I watched a film last night called The Sicilian Connection. Had never heard of it, 72. And man, just the whole thing, it's a trip, man, because you're following this character as he follows the production of heroin, right? Yeah. From Turkey, where they're cutting the opium poppies and all that, to Sicily, where he's with, these mafia guys, to New York, man, gritty New York, 42nd Street, Grindhouse, that era. And I just love the attention to detail with location. Yeah. And some of that just, I don't know, it just gives me this cozy vibe, man. You just feel like you're traveling to these places. You're in that particular time and space, and man, it's just great.
What you just said right there, because a lot of the gentrification, things changing, time, those places don't really exist anymore. So that's why,
exactly.
So that's a good point where you could actually go back and sometimes I feel you could feel like you might have been born 10 years too late, but I don't think you would have appreciated it. You probably would have liked the 40s and the 50s if you were born in if you were born in the 70s.
I should have been born as a boomer to appreciate it. But then again, I don't know. Then I would feel like an ass because I'd be like, oh, sorry, I fucked up everything for you guys. Because I mean, not to get too serious, but that us as millennials were like, home ownership, what the hell is that? I'm going to be renting my entire life.
Those memes are hilarious. That they show like my parents in the early 80s buying a house for $500. The one that cracks me up is it shows like it gets meta. It shows the guy making the meme. Now, so it's just like that's what we're doing. Yeah, I mean it's.
But dude, CJ, you totally hit the nail on the head though, man. Gentrification. I think the same way that the horror movie genre sort of became very slick, right, and kind of overproduced in a lot of ways. I think same thing, man. That locations, some of the locations, what I was thinking of when I was watching Sicilian Connection. This is true of a lot of films from the 70s. Is the more you feel like you can live in the film. In other words, that realism, that gritty realism, it just repays watches, and you feel like the character, it gives the character more of a realistic dimension too. I mean, Taxi Driver, for example, right? When we're watching De Niro cruise through those streets and he's saying, we're seeing all the rough people come out of the shadows at night. Yeah. It's believable because of the location. You're just like, wow, this is
even like in Alien, when you I started watching that movie, like watch it as you feel like you're in the spaceship. Like if you just watch it as like, oh, they're in rooms and scenes, but if you watch it like your mind gets tight. It gets like in a bubble where the claustrophobic feels start. You're like, oh crap! Like you break the hall, that thing's gonna suck everything out. You can't really shoot it, or you don't have any weapons. This android, I'm stuck with this android now. It's like it really like when you really start putting it that like you're in a spinning donut kind of thing. It's like it gets scary, and that's what I kind of like about the movies where you can really unwind and really get into those. Speaking about music, like for pop culture, like I like enjoy movies, and music and whatnot. This past week, I rebought the Killers. It's their album Hot Fuzz, and I just love all the music on this song. There are other songs on this album that I was like, man, this is really hitting me back in the feels. I remember I was going kind of through a dark time when this album came out, and it really helped me get through that dark time because I was just jamming out to it. But I just never thought it was just something I would actually just keep buying, and so it's always cool to go back. I feel like to a certain point and relive something again, even if maybe try to understand it. A lot of movies that when I watch like Commando and Rambo, and you watch all these movies, and I grew up watching those. My dad loved those movies, so I'd watch them. And then it isn't until I started listening to like the comedians make fun of those, like older comedians make fun of those movies and how they go in these scenarios and they come out like untouched. And I never thought about that. Like it's just always, And then I was like, it's true. They got like 100 people shooting 1,000 bullets at them, and not one, but they have one gun and they just shoot and it blows all of them up. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And at that point, I took like, okay, well, it's just a movie, I guess. Yeah, it's just a movie. And even what you said earlier about the Marvel movies, it does start to be wash and repeat kind of feel. Yeah. And I feel like, I feel like that's what happened with comic books the first go around and the second go around. I feel like comic books usually get mass produced, and then they go on this hype and they just go on this huge arc, and then they crash because we can make movies right now real easy. We can make these CGI movies. I mean, half the scenes with Iron Man, he's not even in there. It's just Robert Downey Jr.'s voice. Yeah. It's insane, you know. And but a lot of those Spielberg movies, like not seeing the shark, not seeing Bruce because it wasn't working, or being creative with what you have, like that's still like. I guess some people would have just quit and be like, well, the shark's not working. I can't make this. This guy was like, no, I can make a movie. Watch. That's the initiative. That's really scary about that whole thing. Like, I could still scare the crap out of you with like, well, what I got. You know, it's like, it's kind of like playing poker in a sense where you have a bluff and you got to like kind of show people like, watch this. Because how do you shoot a movie with a shark movie with no shark? Like, how do you get your crew to be like, I think I just gotta hold this broomstick here. I think.
And dude, I mean, you're right. That's why location and atmosphere are key, because like, as much as I do dig the 70s, I can actually say some positives about you bringing up Spielberg, dude. Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first Indiana Jones movie. Yeah. Some of the stunts are mind-boggling, and there's no CGI. I mean, this is just happening. The locations, it's not like you're seeing some CGI backdrop. They actually filmed it in some rough locations. The ending, my God, what the hell? Yeah. Like, pre-PG-13, you got Nazis' faces melting off and exploding. I mean, it's pretty terrifying, actually. Some parts of it play like horror. And I think it's just, I don't know. There was sort of this ballsiness that, because it even overlaps into some of the 80s, but I don't know. It's almost like early 80s. But yeah, like, there's something to be said for not relying too heavily on special effects, for sure. Yeah, like, there's something to be said for,
You said something nice about having the 70s hangover in the 80s. Like, when you said Maniac, that was the first thing that popped in my head.
Oh, man, dude. That feels more like a 70s movie than 80s, for sure.
Definitely,
it's very grimy and distrirbing.
Like, it is, man, and it has that's the thing about I feel like the 70s and the early 80s with horror movies. The camera kind of brought you along with it. You never really saw you see like the shoulder of the killer, or you'd see like you were saying earlier about Black Christmas. When you said that, I was like, holy shit, I remember that. Like, that is the scary part.
You never. I mean, and it's brilliant. It's one of the only films I've seen like that. Yeah, that you never actually see him. Like, even at the end of the movie when he's still in the attic. You're like, what the hell? Like, and that's actually disturbs you more, because like they always say, the imagination is much more frightening than anything they can actually show us on screen. So
yeah, like, it's true. Like, so it's better the book or the movie, and it's always the book, because you could make it leave it. But usually the book you could write way more in a book than you can in a movie.
Yeah. But you have limited space in the hour and a half, 2 hours. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then like even like that, I think horror movies have to be in that like 90-minute realm. It's hard to make like a long horror movie.
I agree. And in fact, this is one where, oh my gosh, I'm really going to upset the apple cart here. And this is not to say that there's no merit to the film. There's parts of it that I think work. But what you just brought up, CJ, this is why for me, I'm waiting for everybody, if there's anybody in the chat room, to come at me with the pitchforks. Kubrick's The Shining, man. It's too long. It's too long for a horror movie. Like, it has scenes that work for sure, especially arguably the best scene is, the climax, right? When he's being chased through the hedge. It's very atmospheric, the hedge maze. But it's one of those that, like, I think the leaner, the better with horror, right? With other genres, you can stretch out, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for me, man, ideal running time for a horror movie is like Texas Chainsaw. I think it's like 83, 84 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, make it lean and mean. And then you're not going to have any wasted space,
That's a good
Too many horror movies, they belabor it's just, yeah.
No, you're right.
I think The Shining, that's a weakness of The Shining. I'm just like, some people blame that on Stephen King more than Kubrick, but yeah, I just feel that there's scenes in it that work, but it's just that I think some editing in it would have made it actually a much more effective film. I don't know. That's an unpopular opinion, probably.
But I think The Shining, I didn't realize it was a horror movie until I started. I mean, The Simpsons did a thing on the Treehouse of Horror thing, but it wasn't until I started going to the horror conventions and I started seeing more and more horror. I saw that more of like a psychological thriller.
Interesting.
I didn't see it as a horror movie. Yeah. I saw it more as like you're stuck in Jack's head the whole time.
Yeah.
So
which really, you make a good argument there, because really the horror elements don't happen until like the last maybe 20-30 minutes of the movie, where you got like she's seeing these apparitions, and then like the more, like you said, the more grotesque stuff. But yeah, up into that, like you said, it is much more just this guy progressively getting worse with his insanity.
So that's true. Still here with us in spirit. He says, "Wasted space ruins the illusion." No, it was Kubrick.
Hey, JW, man, that's brave, because like I said, I've had some criticisms for Kubrick too, and actually non-horror, I like a lot of art house stuff. I do. I like a lot of those philosophical, Tarkovsky stuff like that. But yeah, Kubrick, I do have some criticism for Kubrick, and I know that can be very divisive in the film community, because I know a lot of people worship like Kubrick's altar, basically. Yes. But for me, I feel like sometimes Kubrick's a little. The word I want to use is anesthetic. I almost want to say, for me, sort of like almost too clinical in his approach to the. I don't know. Just that's not to say that there's not still merits in his films. I mean, clearly the man had an eye for the frame. I mean, without a doubt.
Yeah.
2001: A Space Odyssey and stuff like that. But
dude,
but I do feel, I don't know, that just. I guess I'm just not the biggest Kubrick guy, but I still appreciate his place in film history for sure.
Dude. Yeah, there's a reason why his name sticks out and stuff. Even like watching. I mean, I like Apocalypse Now, and that's in the 70s. That's a. Oh,
now that one I have nothing but the highest praise for. I actually think that should get more praise than the Godfather films, in my opinion. I think Apocalypse Now is Coppola's. Yeah.
Even like the way they shot it and the way they had to go through all that crap to make the movie, it's like, oh crap. That's what I guess we'll kind of wind down with horror movies, because I mean we're finishing at the end of the show, but like one thing we did on Side by Side, we talked about Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, and we're like, let's find the franchises what are quote unquote the worst movies, and we found that Jason Part 8 with Jason Takes Manhattan is one of the bad ones. And then sure. And then I think we were looking at Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, and when we went back and watched those, Manhattan is pretty bad, because it's a lot of the same rinse and repeat. Jason's killing people, and then the deaths, they don't really get better or gory. They kind of just plateau and they kind of just die. Yeah.
It almost gets more comedic.
But then even like watching Nightmare on Elm Street 5 and thinking that it's gonna be like this, like a jokester, Freddy Krueger, I turned into something completely different, because this is right when we had they just took away Roe v. Wade, and as we're watching this movie, I was like, dude, the main character Allison is a minor that got pregnant. She's about to be 18. She can't really control her thing, and then they're telling her what to do with her body. It's like, holy shit, like that's like her baby. It's a crazy. As I started really
there's still some subtext.
Yeah, like there's like a whole story in there that is like
definitely better than Freddy's Dead.
Oh god. So Freddy's Dead is I'm finding out now as a letdown, because I put that one as the worst one, because I think Jeff Katz in the documentary Never Sleep Again. I'm thinking of Nightmare on Elm. Friday the 13th, Never Camp Alone.
Yeah.
But as Jeffrey Katz said, he said too many people survived in Nightmare on Elm Street 6, and Freddy's dead. And he's right. Too many people survived, and then because it's mainly because it's 5 minutes in Manhattan. Exactly. It's only like a boat.
They're on that cruise ship most of the time.
Yeah, and it's like
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say, CJ, it's interesting that you brought up Dream Child, because I have not watched the Nightmare on Elm Street series in a while. But you know what is interesting is I feel like that was a missed opportunity, in the sense that, to me, and this is, I'm almost contradicting myself here, because I always say that villains are best without doing a huge backstory, right? That it makes them more mysterious, scarier. But that being said, with Nightmare on Elm Street, I gotta say, for me, the most disturbing aspect of any of those films is explored more in that entry you mentioned, Dream Child, which is Freddy being, doesn't it say the son of 1,000 maniacs?
Yes, yeah.
That his mom, my God, I was like, what in the hell? And that stuck with me. That actually was more disturbing to me than any, any of the dream sequences in any of the films, than any of the killings, was just because it's more realistic. Like, you're just like, that could happen. This woman could have ended up in this position where, you know, these horrific things happened to her and she bore this illegitimate son. And I was like, you know, that was maybe a missed opportunity for that series, that they could have just done a film just about that.
Yeah.
You know, just about how he came into being, how he became a killer. I was really kind of surprised they never did that, especially with all the prequels that have happened with all these series. Well, that's arguably the most disturbing. Yeah.
They did it in Freddy's Dead. It didn't come off really that good. I mean, as you were saying that, JW actually wrote in his backstory.
There it is.
Yeah. The Son of 1,000 Maniacs.
Yep.
Like, and that's true. And then,
that would be a great film title too. That's like an H.G. Lewis title.
Yeah. But I mean, even that, because that's like, it's 2020. We did the podcast of 2021. Still 2022, and we're still having these conversations. We're still, why are we backtracking? You know, and that kind of stuff kind of sticks to me.
We're regressing for sure.
Yeah, and it's like, if it's in this movie and you're looking at it as that's a horrible movie, I'm like, well, peel back some of the layers and see what you relate to it, or see what you can peel from it. And that's because I was really like, I didn't realize I love Kane Hodder, but man, this one's pretty bad for a slasher in general, especially with I could only, because I was such a child when they came out. You know, I could only imagine a guy in his 20s or 30s or even like teens like going to want to watch this after you've seen all of them in the theater, and then just like,
oh, and the Friday the 13th movies can entertain me. It's just that none of them have ever scared me. But I think the closest they got to really digging into some substance was part 2. Man, I thought, you know, that sequence with Amy Steele, you remember, where she pretends to be his mother.
Yes.
Mother's decapitated head in the shed. I was like, this is the closest this series has gotten to some depth. You know, like they actually got into some weird shit at the end of that movie.
Yeah, it is true. They're right. They do she does because she's a psychology major or something like that. And it's just something as simple as that. There's like a dialogue line in it. It's something as simple as that. It really just shows that she knows enough. And you're right. Like that's actually the thing. Oh, but even like, you know, like just having like certain type of like minorities in movies, horror movies are always like that. They have people you know, people in wheelchairs, people like with disabilities can be in movies as well, and they tend to kind of go that route. Like I always like Silver Bullet because Corey Haim's character was, you know, he's stuck in his chair and this werewolf.
Dude, I need to rewatch that. It has been a while. I know what you're talking about too. That he's disabled, right?
Yeah, he's in a chair, and it's like and it's such a crazy. You know, I mean, Gary Busey just did some crazy stuff recently, apparently.
Oh yeah, you can always rely on Gary Busey to bring the crazy factor.
Yeah, not surprised. But you know, I love him in the movies. But you know, like watching that movie, and he plays a good uncle. That's like a very supportive like character. Like it's this, like I found like love in this movie, you know, and it's supposed to be about a werewolf. But it adds for more challenges, and it really scares it, you know. Look at that. JW agrees. Silver Bullet is great. And he also said Amy Steele's underrated. Final girl pick.
Oh, dude, agreed. Another one that I think is underrated is, okay, so I'll admit, once again, I hope the pitchforks don't come out, because I know I already
got you, bro. I already had a critique for.
I know I already had a critique for Scream and Kubrick, which, like I say, I have a little more love for Kubrick than Scream, because I mean, dude did 2001: A Space Odyssey. I mean, clearly we know that he's of artistic merit. Some of his style doesn't always work for me. Like Clockwork Orange, it just doesn't. It just doesn't. I don't know.
Part of your brain. You gotta have that. You gotta kind of really unplug.
I just feel like it just. Okay, here's the thing that I'm really gonna get the pitchforks on me for this too. Is okay. I kind of feel the way about Clockwork Orange that this is where I might get thrown out, because I know how many people like this filmmaker. I kind of feel the same way about Clockwork Orange that I do about Tarantino.
Oh, man.
Where this is just exploitation. Why can't we call it what it is? Like, in other words, if it was just exploitation, right? So, like, if we treated Clockwork Orange or a Tarantino movie the way we treated, like, an H.G. Lewis 2000 Maniacs or Blood Feast, right? Yeah. Or, like, trying to think of some other 70s, you know, I Spit on Your Grave, Rolling Thunder, stuff like that, I actually would have no problem at all with Tarantino or Clockwork Orange. But the fact that, like, we take these, they're just exploitation films, and we're like, this, you know, we elevate it to this level of like acclaim, where I'm just like, the guy's just making, like, especially in the case of Tarantino, it's like he's just kind of taking his favorite plot lines and things from older exploitation movies and just repackaging them. You know, they're more slickly produced. They have they have bigger budgets. They have more actors, but it's not. Anyway, I'll stop that rant. But
I'll say you do have some cojones on you, Tarantino. I've
very strong opinions. I know.
I like his movies, but I've actually gotten.
Oh, and that's okay. Don't worry. We can still be friends.
No, let me tell you this. No, I'm not saying like for me. Let me tell you this. I like his movies enough for I've seen them, but I found some like hardcore, and they're older than me, but guys that really love Tarantino. So I'll start picking at them. And I want to see their reaction. Boy, yeah. And holy crap, not only do they get upset and they get real serious, but they gave me a direct response like, and what are your movies that you like, huh? I'm pretty sure they steal from other things. Because I said the whole, like, he literally takes frames from other movies. Like, things that I heard on the internet. I know.
Well, man, Inglourious Bastards. Like, the plot line, the title, it was all taken from a 70's movie by Enzo Castellari, you know. And I think he even admits it. It's just, I think he gets away with it because, he's part of the elite. You know what I'm saying? He's part of the elite. And so I feel like I would have respected Tarantino more if he didn't kind of try to like, and a lot of this, maybe not, it's not all 100% his fault either, right? We could say that Harvey Weinstein, Miramax and all that they were about, hey, let's get the money. Let's get let's get this on the awards circuit. I mean, and really you could even blame Cannes Film Festival. Because as soon as they gave an award to Pulp Fiction, at that point, they're like, oh, this isn't just like an exploitation film that's kind of entertaining. This is high art or something
Yeah.
And that's the part that kind of irks me because I'm just like, and also probably especially too, because I actually prefer a lot of the stuff that he's inspired by. You know, I prefer that to his own material. So, but like I say, where I won't criticize him is that I do think he has a pretty good taste for the most part. I mean, you know, when you look at some of his favorite films, what he's been inspired by, I just tend to find that, I guess it's just not my style, the Tarantino style.
Well, it's what I'm gathering. What I'm gathering. What I'm gathering is that you said basically like Tarantino is kind of just like not a glorified filmmaker, but he's like the Hollywood filmmaker, but he started off independent, so it feels kind of like he didn't stay there. He didn't stay in that realm of like John Carpenter or and that's actually why we still have so much respect for a Carpenter, right? Is that he didn't really, I mean, I think Carpenter was even asked that once when I think there was a particular panel, it might have been in France or something, where they're like, you, my friend, are one of the great they were talking about like, you're one of the great filmmakers, my friend, and they're naming all these like art house, very critically acclaimed filmmakers. And Carpenter goes, man, no. Yeah. He said, I just did genre pictures. And so I think that's the thing is that I think that if Tarantino, and, he was partially responsible, but it wasn't all him. But just if it hadn't become this, almost pretending like it's something larger than it is. Yeah, I get you.
The fact that because it's so heavily indebted to previous films.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he even with Hateful Eight, he borrowed a lot of that from one of my all-time favorites, Sergio Corbucci's Great Silence. And the movies are night and day. You look at Hateful Eight, right? The setting is great, right? It's the snowbound location. They're isolated. He even got Ennio Morricone to score it, right? Just like those old spaghetti westerns, the old Italian westerns. But there's not really any substance or depth. The people argue with each other, right, for a long period of time. Everybody kills each other off, It gets really gory and kind of silly, And like, for me, I never end up caring about the characters. You compare that to Great Silence, which was his main inspiration for Hateful Eight. Great Silence is very, very tragic. It's very melancholy.
Yeah.
We have the main character is a mute, right? He had his vocal cords cut by these people who killed his family, right? And the other main character is this African-American woman, Pauline Middleton, who these bounty hunters come and they kill her husband. And the guy even says, wow, these days when I think he says when a black is worth as much as a white. I mean, there's a lot of social commentary.
Yeah.
At the end of the film, the main characters get gunned down by the bounty hunters because they're upholding the law. I mean, there's a lot of subtext. There's a lot of tragedy and sorrow. And I guess that's my complaint with Tarantino is I feel like he takes the style, but I'm missing the character depth. I'm missing like the emotion, but it could be that I'm just too damn serious. That's my own criticism because it's true. Tarantino, I mean, all of it, usually you're not going in it for a serious experience, really. It's more entertainment,
Yeah.
And maybe that's my problem. I'm just too damn serious. That's probably why all these 70s horror movies.
Well,
I swear, I do have a sense of humor, though.
No, I think you're good. No, we've had a good conversation.
Yeah.
It's also like my cousin. He's a little bit older than us, and he goes, "Hey, man, I'm like basically stuck in '97. Like that's the last year for me where he's into like heavy metal, grunge. He's into like hardcore, like music, and he's like, yeah, I'm kind of just it's like he's like, I love like the '70s metal, then he gets to the '80s, and then like kind of the Crow hits, and then I kind of just fade out after that. And he's like, about '97 is where I'm at.
And I'm a lot less critical with music, I feel like, than I am with film, because I think there's still a lot of fantastic music being made. It's just not necessarily all on the radio. In fact, the majority of it isn't, right? You got to really seek it out. And music has been succeeding. And in fact, I feel that's where music has done well, where film has suffered.
Yeah.
Is like JW brought up earlier, when he or was it you, CJ? It was either you or JW brought up the anecdote from that actor where he's like, well, we tried to make this independent film, but we needed this budget to distribute it and market it. And then at that point, but there's just too much money in the film industry. Whereas with music, I actually think music is doing fantastic. And the people who think music is dead should take another listen, because the fact that it can be done at such a low budget and so independently, I mean, music is doing really well. There's a lot of great music out there. Film, though, like I say, I do think film has suffered a lot more than music has in quality, because just there's too much of a stranglehold by the major studios.
And also, just making a movie is like you have a lot of hands in the pot. And
you do.
I got into animation because I still like to tell stories, and I got a degree in that. But it's like,
cool.
In animation, you would know what you did. You can actually show what you did. It's not like in a movie, like, well, I was actually like a extra hurdler, cattler, and I had to like. To this day, I had to keep all the extras in one room, and then I was still part of the movie. It's like, yeah, really. It's like, well, I had to help out here. Or it's like, it's like, hey, we need you to go like pick up all this equipment and move it from here to here. It's gonna take you all day. Okay, you go do that, and you're like, well, I'm part of the movie, but you're not really. It's like you're not one of the guys at the front of it. You're not by the camera.
Yeah.
You're not. It's like the closer you are to the camera, the more important you are. It's like you're like way over here, so you're trying to jog along and figure this out, and it's like, it comes down to it. I think the independent feel is just always going to be great. It's always going to be there.
Oh yeah.
And as long as you like, just kind of just give it a shot, even if you're not the best, just give it a shot. Eventually, somebody will like you, and you just figure it out. I do have here what JW says. Tarantino perfectly synthesized the video store wall he grew up with. Oh God, with like cinema meth.
Cinema meth. Sorry, JW.
Yeah.
But CJ, what you brought up actually is to bring it back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because that's how you and I met.
Yeah.
Is man, that's why that film. Another reason it works so well is, like you said, there weren't too many hands in the pot.
Yeah.
They talk about how Daniel Pearl was able to do all this really unique cinematography on the film, like that iconic swing shot.
Yeah.
Even Spielberg asked him about that. The big budget Spielberg guy.
That's awesome. Yeah.
He asked Daniel Pearl. He's like, wow, man, how did you pull off that shot? And he's like, well, it wasn't in the script. The producers didn't want it, but Tobe Hooper said, screw you guys. This is my cameraman. And he's the one who, has the expertise in this field, and he's going to do what he's going to do,
Yeah.
And I think, it's true that the bigger the budget, the more hands you got in the pot, the more the end product is compromised, for sure.
And then we'll get off in a second, but I like to watch I love watching Kevin Smith's behind the scenes stuff for all his movies, and the one for Clerks 2. As you watch the behind the scenes, it's only like 90 minutes, and when you get towards the end, when he's already kind of finished and he's letting people watch it, he let Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino watch it. And one thing I like about both those guys, or even Kevin Smith with Tarantino, they're fans of creation, so you could see Tarantino kind of like fanboying out, where I'm like, yeah, see, he's like that. He's got it in him, but he chose to go the Hollywood route. He chose to kind of do the high end stuff. Yeah. So to some extent, he's gonna have his crowd of his friends, or the fans are up at that bubble, but it's not gonna be like these guys, like the horror icon. The horror family community is like so tight knit, so down to earth. Everybody kind of knows everybody. I didn't even realize that. And then, but it's also just very supportive, and it's I don't know. Texas Frightmare is one of the craziest. Have you ever been to Texas Frightmare? Do you go there?
Dude, been meaning to go for a long time, and I'm one of those that I always felt trepidatious about. Why am I using such a big word? Cautious, but yeah.
You could use that with Texas Frightmare for sure.
Yeah, but no, I should probably go to one. That's actually the thing that I enjoyed so much, and I thought was so unique about that event that I met you at, is that dude, I mean, we need more events like that.
Yeah.
Where I kind of wish they were all like that rather than convention style. Is go to the original locations, show the film there, meet the people there. Like, I would love if they did that everywhere. Like, to do a throwback to JW, do that. Have some of the people from the Sentinel get together at the original location. You know, Black Christmas. You know, the list is long. Night of the Living Dead. I just think there's something about. I'm just big on location and atmosphere, and so I think that's something that I guess. I don't know. I mean, I should though. You're right. I should probably go to a convention because I'm going to be able to see a lot more people there. But I'm really a sucker for locations. Yeah.
No, you're right. I think one of the cool things I got from that event was it was a mini con, like a mini convention, because I didn't see them put the stuff up. So when I went to I was there Friday night for the dinner and I left. When I came back the next morning, it was all set up, and I was like, "What? This is what I'm helping out here. This is a convention." And I was like, it was so like such a fanboy. I was like, let me get it out real quick out of my system because I don't know, it just looked so awesome the way the gang went in, they pulled everything together, and then
it was great.
He said that would be special if we did do that. You know, I was as you know, as I was talking to Alan about, we were just shooting the conversation. I was like, that would be cool, like if there was like a little city with all your famous locations there where you can just go and here. It's not the real houses, but it's a replica, but. You know, you just drive up and there it is. It's I don't know, just something like that would be kind of cool. But,
well, dude, I mean, I just thought that, Ed Neal said this to me when I was talking to him that night. I said, dude, I have been waiting for this moment like forever. This is the way to see it. He goes, well, yeah, of course. See it on a hot summer night in Texas, and then on top of that, that's the way they saw it back in the drive-in. There's not many drive-ins left. He said the majority of people saw it at the drive-in. Hot, sweaty summer nights. But then on top of that, you see it outside the original house. I mean, dude, it doesn't get any better, like.
Yeah, dude, I love it.
It's just.
You were saying that I just remember like I saw at least what do you call it? At least a good 70% of the movie before I left because I was already getting late. But as I was watching the movie, I was saying like, this is pretty badass. Like I'm totally I could totally see why people love just being on this grass and why like there's still. People have seen this movie like a million times and they're still watching it, but I think it's the fact that you're around the community. You're around other people that enjoy it as much as you do. You don't have to talk about it. You just understand it. You don't have to be like, hey, we know what's going to happen next. We already know, but we're just watching it together. And I think that's a good thing about and that's what I'd like to say. Like, thank you for coming on the show, man, because I definitely think you'd be probably be hanging out with us a lot more. So just let everybody know.
Sure though? I don't know. Dude, the screaming Tarantino might have gotten me banned. No, I'm just kidding.
Nah, hey, dude, this is what we need. We need other.
Like I say, man, like JW had mentioned, the irony. I think that's what they call basically the '90s Tarantino Scream era. Is basically Tarantino brought it to. Essentially the crime and what other genre would I say? It was mainly crime genre, at least with Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. Yeah. But then other genres too, like kung fu and westerns and all that. But that essentially was the postmodern irony, is what they say. That was the new trend in like mid to late '90s. And I guess I just still haven't. I don't know. It's like JW said. I guess I prefer to like, think about like the old days when the person opens the Gothic novel, like. I'm like, I don't know. It's weird. It's like at the same time that I like the realism, or at least that's what I've mentioned liking so much about 70s films in particular. I also like the illusion too. Yeah. I think that the postmodern irony, it just doesn't. I guess it doesn't have the same entertainment factor for me as it does for others. But I respect that people dig different things. But yeah,
that's good. Even like JW puts here, he goes, "We can agree to disagree." Hey man, we need some punk. We need some young punks.
Which JW, you and CJ and JW, man, I give you guys props because I need to be more like you guys, because it sounds like you guys can dig kind of elements of both eras. You can dig the gritty realism of like the 70s, but you can also dig the postmodern irony of the 90s. Yeah. Well, I gotta somehow, I don't know. I can dig the 60s, 70s, 80s. I dig 90s, but just I feel like the postmodern irony for me worked a lot better for the comedy genre. Yeah. Like so if we're talking like the Coen brothers, like Fargo, Big Lebowski, dude. I eat that shit up, love it. But I feel like I like postmodern irony. I think it's just already comedic. And so I almost like it more for comedy. Yeah. I feel like postmodern irony doesn't work as well for me in the genres that are supposed to be more serious.
I get what you're saying, man. And it also, I think what happens is this network's a little bit older. We got a bunch of Gen Xers running around. So it's good to have the younger guys around here because I mean I see it as like I'm starting to notice. That's what they love about the show that I've done with the people I have and the network that we're kind of creating. I love that it's kind of gotten me to reflect on myself and really like kind of dig a little bit deeper. Like what am I doing? A mental health show, a vlog? What is it? So I'm carving it up more. And these cats here all help me out. It's helped me like figure out who I am and as a filmmaker, as whatever I am, whatever I like doing. But it's always just have a confidence of just getting it done and getting it forward.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here for. Because it's also like, are you gonna make something that no one's gonna see? No, now it's like, no, we have people that are gonna watch it. They want to see what you got, and it's like it's such a great thing to do. And I never thought that we were gonna have like I never thought I was gonna have a good time like meeting people online. I always looked at the internet as like a fake hole that I was like, I don't want to deal with it. Yeah. Like I don't want to pay. Everybody's just always like, this is a better version of me. I'm like, I'm in real life, man. But as this 2020 forced us to do all that, I'm like, I found these little avenues. I found all these people we could actually just keep talking about, movies. I was like, oh wow, that's all I want to talk about. And it's like that's where I'm at now. And it's it's like it's also like since I started I think on this network like a year ago, just on this network alone, learning horror movies has been like I'm like, okay, I'm getting brushed up a lot because I didn't know
the new passion project, right? Yeah.
Just learning them. But also what I'm finding too, especially with like 70 movies horror or like 80 horrors, I'm learning how did they do this? They didn't have any money. How did they do this? And that's what really sticks in my head.
And it's remarkable what they were able to pull off. And I like them. And like I said, man, and I feel bad that, and I know we got to wrap this up because I know it's even later where you are than I am, but I was curious, the mental health aspect, man. So I know I rambled so much about movies, but I was curious about the mental health aspect of your show.
Yeah, let's talk about that. No, I could talk about that. So basically mental health is something that's it's a iffy topic to bring up around a lot of people. I'm very open about my manic depression, which it kind of sucks. It's been hitting me lately. So having depression issues, bipolar, just learning to like get through my days and understanding how it is. A lot of it relies on me in movies. I use a lot of movies to get through my days, and it's not just like I watch a movie to like escape or all that. Like I just something about like how did they make that shot? How did they do this? And it's like when I find out, it's like the magician, but I don't want to ask the magician. I want to figure it out on my own. I think I've always been like a problem solver, and when I see things like how can you help people connect? How can you help people the people that love music, like I'm not a musician, which I would love to learn to play an instrument. I own a few, but I don't play them. But I have them for my son if he ever wants to pick them up and do it. But I see somebody like that with like a passion for music. It seems like you just pick up a guitar and you just play it, or drums or whatnot. But it's like movies. Where do you show your passion? You can just watch them all day. Is that what it is? Is that a passion? Or But I think now as we get older, and I'm assuming you saw a lot of horror movies when you were younger.
Stuff I shouldn't have seen.
We've been watching these movies since we were kids, like children, and then we grow up, and then people that are our age, they didn't watch them. So to them, they're like, nah, that's nothing. But we're like, no, this is a good, we can't forget about it. So as I get older, I at least want to show my son, like, hey, like, and that's why digital media, like physical media, like I love physical media. Like I have.
Oh, hell yeah.
I can, my Mr. Hush, David Lee Madison, Scott Schiaffo.
Dude, and Gremlins, man. Gremlins is a perfect, like I said, that was my introduction to horror. Yeah. No joke. So I think that's so funny. That's one of the first ones you showed your son.
Yeah, exactly. And also one of my first movies. But like the whole mental health aspect of for me is more of an example. I mean, I love, like, this is something that's hard to do. Make a movie. Acting is so hard for me. But I'm seeing finding the resources. I'm seeing the people here. I'm doing the things I have to do to figure it out. At the same time, it's like a challenge for me. I love challenges. I like just, can we go down this smooth path, or let's just go down these jagged rocks? It's gonna take us longer. I was like, I think I need to go this way for some reason. It's just like I don't know why, but it's just something like in me. So if I can like help somebody be like, hey, that guy talks about movies all day. I love to cook. So it's like, what if like I like cooking and they start cooking, or maybe they some people do. I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago, and there was a couple guys from my hometown, and there's like, I'm from the border, so there's kind of like a mindset that's from there that's nowhere else.
Oh yeah.
So I was talking very openly because I don't have anything to hide, and somebody from another border town reached out to me and was like, hey, I heard what you were saying, and I agree with you. And I was like, cool. I was like, wow, it's weird. Like, like for someone that I don't know of to come and tell me that, which I'm like, I don't know whether they agree or disagree. Like, I'm just like, okay, but it makes it seem like I'm like, what do you call it? Just for me being honest, and it was good for somebody, and I don't know. I think especially like in my culture, like the dudes are like machismo real bad, and I feel like a lot of things resonate and hurt a lot of people, and I'm like, just watch a damn movie, man. Watch something that you can like. I don't know, just something about me in movies. Like my favorite, and this is where JW. I know he's still watching. He's gonna make. He's not gonna make fun of me. He's gonna be like, damn, brother, you like pain, because this is my favorite movie of all time. 1986's Transformers the movie. This by far.
I hadn't seen that. I have seen it, but it's been a while.
Dude, you got like, I mean, just for like my timeline in life and where I've like how I lived and how I see.
Well, you said because you're into animation too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love animation. It's just the fact I can tell. I like the story and get out of it, and then how they go about saying it. So it's like I don't feel like I'm good enough to do that stuff, but I'm still learning. So whatever, we'll see where I go with that. But the thing about it is like that movie, and it's because it's got loss, it's got death, it's got new characters you're getting introduced into. You're getting into like a journey. It's like there's leadership. I mean, God damn, I'm such a nerd on this. I was breaking down the scene where what do you call it? Preceptor and Blaster are trying to get a message to Optimus Prime on Moonbase 1. And what ends up happening is because Blaster, do I have him right here? I have like I am an addict, so to stop doing drugs, I started just doing other things like collect. So I got all my tracks. So this is Soundwave. He's got the little cassettes, So what happens in the scene, real quick? God, I love talking about this. So what happens is Preceptor is like, because this is how I'm explaining to my son. I'm trying to get him to watch the scene, and I'm telling him, see, Preceptor was there to give a message to Blaster. And then Blaster was getting the message out until Soundwave intercepted it, and then he sent his little robots at him. Well, Preceptor, he sacrificed himself, and he told Blaster to run while he tries to fight these guys. And they're beating him up because they're small and they're compact, he can't get to them. But Blaster knows. Well, the first thing he does, he kicks their dog. He does a roundhouse and he kicks the dog or the dog robot, and then he goes. But then he says, he goes, run, Blaster, save yourself. And he goes, no way two can play, and he shoots out his robots. And I showed my son, see, sometimes you got to fight fire with fire, or you have to find evil level ground to like beat there. And so I'm trying to be like, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I pulled like truth of a life scenario from my favorite movie, and that's why it's still my favorite movie, because I could pull things without like, it's because I know the characters so well. And it's just something I love. I gotta say, when I do get like sad or like if someone passes and it brings me down, that movie's there for me. Like I can watch that movie, and by the time I can watch it just in one sitting, and I know all the words, and it'll help me out. It helps me get over it, or not get over it. Just helps me realize like it like center me a little bit. And because I do wake up early, and I do meditate, I do stretch, I do try to get my day started way before the sun comes up, just so I can feel accomplished. And then what happens is, if I am doing a movie with one of my podcast friends, I'll watch it in the morning at like from like 6 to 8 or something right before I go to work, and it's like, oh wow, I got to just spend some time with a movie that I really I had to feel like I had to watch. But it's the whole, like, just to cut to the chase of the mental health. It's just like reliability on yourself. It's more about us, like you on your what is your. That's why I added the My Manic Media. So if anybody watches this in the future, my son watches in the future, they could be like, oh, he does this. They watch movies. They go cook. They do anything. What is it that helps you out? Because also we're all nested plugged into these machines now. So it's like, how do you do it to get away from these things? What are you gonna do to help you out? Because I don't know. I don't not like being on the computer all day. I do not like just looking at the screen. So I don't know, just draining. It's just daunting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like feeling like I'm in the same day. So if I know I'm going through this, I know there are people going through this. So I think so. There are other people that even if you don't need to use me as an example, I just like, oh, okay, there's it's there, so I know I'm not alone. Kind of the thing, But if anything, like you've seen the movie. This is totally left wing, like left of field on this one. Have you seen the movie The Big Short? It's an Adam McKee movie. It's 2015.
No, I don't think I've seen that one. No,
that movie is basically about the 2008 the stock market crash of the housing market.
Okay, yeah, the financial crisis.
The financial crisis, yeah. So I love that movie, just the way it's told. But like, it helped me understand the stock market. just the words, terminology, the way they broke it down. So now, like, I do this Robin Hood and whatnot, but I'm seeing a lot of progression in it because I'm like, oh, I'm just taking kind of the way they talk about it, and I know where to look. I don't know. I'm like learning from this movie how to do. Like, you can, and anyone call bullshit, but I'm like, I have results here. I don't know how to say that I have, like, here are results. Like, you can't call bullshit when you have results. But it's like, it started with a movie. Also, like, man, I love Naked Gun. Like, I love all three of those. The Leslie Nielsen movies.
Man, that's another one I hadn't seen in a while, man. Yeah, those were pretty ridiculous. Leslie Nielsen,
dude, I love those movies, and then the fact that, like, OJ's in them, and the way he, like, it's like crazy, you know. but other than that, like, you see, like the Naked Guns, like, I was like, oh, I want to make a slapstick comedy. Like, that's just so, like, I want to make a Naked Gun movie because those are so silly. Yeah, those are so dumb. Like, I remember being a kid and watching the Naked Gun, and then they're gonna have sex, and he goes, "Do you have protection?" And then they wore, like, these life-size condoms, and I'd been like, "What the hell is that?" Like, what is? But it's just so slapstick. Like, you know, I got older, I was like, "Oh, they're wearing condoms, aha." But it's like, to me, it's not really offensive or scary, but it was just, or that bothered me. It was just so dumb that I was like, they really, they did this, like, they showed us, this is dumb. And I'm older, I'm like, I want to find the modern version of that, and I want to make that. But it's just, I think mental health is where we're at right now. I think it's still, people don't want to talk about it. They also get it confused with special needs. And so they kind of slum everything together and be like, y'all, you're just special needs. It's like, no, this is like a whole different thing. And I also work at the theater, so being around a lot of improv actors and comedians.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I get to see people where I'm like, they might not communicate the best, and it's just communication, but they're a great performer. They're great. They're a great singer. They're a great dancer, and I can see that. And then when they're off the stage, they're little, we have movies we can relate to, and that's where I love going to that. And I've been in Austin for almost 20 years now. I got here when it was real music. I don't consider this music capital anymore. Well, I don't care, whatever. I'm older now, so it's like I don't count. But I will say that a lot of music rubbed off on me when I got here because I didn't know a lot, and so I started learning from the people. Over time, I guess movies just got more popular because I remember there was a time where I was like the only movie buff in like a restaurant setting or a retail setting or whatever to call it setting. And then as I got older and I was still taking college classes and still working, I just started having more movie conversations. And I was like, oh, there's more movie people here now. Oh, they're making movies here now. Oh, now it's time for me to kind of get comfortable with this. And what made you? Start the Instagram page?
Man, it was kind of in answer to your I guess it wasn't a question, but a reflection. When you had mentioned that, we as people spending so much time, on smartphones and on the internet and all of that. And man, it was basically to talk about mental health. I'm going to get real serious here for a second, reveal something. Is that my dad, he passed away from cancer. Oh, man. This would have been June of 2020. Oh, and it was kind of just like it was like a double, triple whammy because it's like, I ended up becoming unemployed, but I mean, I was doing okay, but I was unemployed, pandemic hit, dad passed away, I'm saying all this shit all at once. And no joke, man, I had another Instagram page, but I didn't really have a community on there. It was just more like, I'd post music stuff and I had some people follow me, but dude, like you say, the horror community, very supportive because that summer to just kind of escape from the pandemic, the pandemic isolation, my dad passing and all that. Yeah, that's when I started 70's horror movies, man. So 2 years going strong now. And dude, like I said, I hope to meet some of them in person. I've met one or two horror community people in person. Majority I haven't met though. Yeah. And very, like you said, very supportive community. Just really, really cool people. And I mean, that was basically. Yeah, I mean, ironically, it connects right to your mental health thing. That's my 70's horror movies page was a way to kind of escape from the pandemic blues or whatever you want to call it, you know what I'm saying? And the blues because my dad passed away. So I was like, shit, man, I need something to take my mind off of shit. And so I was like, that's always been one of my interests. There we are, Yeah,
first thing I started doing because the pandemic hit, I was like, oh man, all my devices that I have to keep me sane are outside. Here's my basketball league. Here's all my the filmmaking. Here's my art stuff. And so at first,
oh, dude, and that's way healthier than what I was doing.
No,
losing myself in the.
That's what I was doing before pandemic, just to be normal, or just to kind of be amongst. When pandemic hit, I lost all that, and I was like, I'm gonna be stuck at home. What?
Yeah.
So I started gardening, which I got really good at. I have a green thumb.
But, that's cool.
But it's real set it and forget it kind of thing. And then that's why I started doing the podcasting, because I started talking, and I don't know, it really helped me out to really feel like there's just somebody else out there. And I think what I like too is, I was really rough when I started podcasting. Like, I was a little bit like too like that's just the way it is, and I don't know, I don't care, but I understand, I have passion. And now I get like, okay, there's flow in my conversation. There's like I'm figuring because I'm going back and watching myself, and I'm like, ugh, why do I talk like that, or why am I? And it's also like, you know, the my surroundings, my environment, who I'm with, and then my son came on the scene, you know, and it's like a different thing now, you know. You got to kind of like it's not no longer me, it's him.
Oh, dude, I bet being a parent is the ultimate like, how do I say it? Ultimate transformation, I bet, man. Wow.
Yeah, it's like sure. yeah, definitely. He's definitely getting me out of my comfort zone. And it's man, he's actually like 2 years ahead of where I thought he'd be. Like, he's really smart. I'm like,
cool.
I'm raising a genius. This is not. He's gonna pass me real fast. I was like, this is gonna happen. I was like, me and my dad all over again. Damn. It's like, but you know, it's like you know, I think it's fun. I think I like hanging out with him and spending time with him and growing. I think, see, that's where all my free time really just goes, because like now he's like very understanding, but like him watching Gremlins, like when we went to watch Gremlins 2, the first thing he goes, oh, you can't get them wet, don't get them wet, and they can't eat, and then be careful, no light. And he remembered that. I thought that was so cute. So then when Gizmo does get wet in the second one, he goes, I told him, why did he get him wet? I was like, because we wouldn't have a movie then, son.
You're right, because unfortunately that's the way sequels work, son.
They make more money. Real quick, I got JW.
They don't listen to anything that happened, and then they repeat the same mistakes.
Yes, and he says,
dude, and you know what I was gonna say when you mentioned that he didn't get all the way through? Like, I think you said he made it through Gremlins, but not Gremlins 2.
Yeah.
No problem for him at all, man. Because the first one's where it's at. So much better.
Yeah,
I mean, the Christmas part alone, it just makes it more timeless, you know.
Well, also, that is Christmas, and then the fact.
Yeah, that, I think much better than part 2. Although I know there's people that probably dig part 2, but
I get it. I get the meta behind it, the breaking the fourth wall and all that. But you know, the scene where the lady goes up on the.
Oh my god! Yeah.
And I was just like, he's got to see it. I can't. There's not enough time for me to pause it. I'm like, there you go. And then he just laughs. He's like, that gremlin messed that lady's chair up. I was like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, but you know, I think like him learning and stuff, like because there's a scene there where Corey Haim cuts the Christmas trees, and I had to tell him like, hey, no, dude, we don't do this. This is a movie. It's fake. Like, I want him to know that movies are fake. They're not real. But in a sense, like, if you believe in them enough, if you really want them, they will exist and they can. But it's just here and here. But you learn to use that. I don't know. As I get older, and I don't know how you feel, but as I get older, I feel a lot of people, I don't know, I hate saying that, I feel a lot of people, I commonly in those conversations I have are, like, it's just, like, they don't want, like, they want to talk, or they enjoy this, but they think it's childish, or, I'm like, it's not that, I'm getting lost in it, like, I'm enjoying it, there's more to it, and there's other people I can play with, and, you know, this whole, like, just kind of, like, I haven't got this in a minute, like, the grow up thing, because I'm like, nah, I already grew up, but the thing is, it's more like the only way you find the community is, I mean, the support is in through the community, but you have to kind of be yourself and show. One thing I loved about just the comic conventions, and then the horror conventions as well, is I always feel weird recording people, or just like without their consent, or just, I don't like people doing it to me. So, but you know, cosplay, they want to show off. They're here for that. And I feel like for mental health purposes, that is a good thing, you know. Like I like watching a black Superman walk around and have that pride, like I'm Black Superman, because it's like, we don't have a black Superman, you know. It's like, this is cool.
Yeah,
like, bring ideas. That is true. Bring something, you know. I like all this. I to me, you know, or like you know, before She-Hulk got popular on the Disney, like I already saw people dressing like She-Hulk, and they were giving it. I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like, you know, it's like, it's just the fact that you can go there, your mind, and other people are there to be there with you, I think is great. And then JW did say, so sorry for your loss, losing your parents.
Oh, no problem, man. Much better 2 years on, man, for sure. Yeah. Appreciate it.
and then he also said the new batch is a delirious whimsy of Chuck Avery card. It is. That's a good way to put it. See, that's why he's our movie guy.
And it could be that I need to rewatch it. I get so, you just get so attached to, I think this is true about both films, if it's like a franchise or albums from a particular band. You probably experienced this, CJ, probably JW too, that there's a particular entry in whatever, like, let's say it's like to do the classic rocks like Floyd or Zepp or whatever. Let's say it's a more recent band. And like, there's certain albums that you're just like, man, the others just don't measure up, because you just get a sort of, well, essentially what you were saying, CJ, that like you said, something that sort of, to use the cliche, like, oh, this saved me, you know what I mean? Like, or this almost like the childlike thing too, you said too, where you said, this was a world I could disappear into. Yeah. And it's so funny. And I think a lot of it depends on the one that you had your first impression with. Yeah. So to use the Gremlins thing, for me, man, I just never felt that connected to the second one, because I remember as a little kid seeing the first one. I think I might have even seen it around Christmas. So perfect timing. Being given the books and the records, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like you end up having a certain attachment to a particular,
Well, that's
I don't know. I don't know if that's happened. That probably happens to everybody with a particular. Yeah.
No, it does. Nightmare on Elm Street, man. I number 4 was the first one I saw, and I fell in love with it.
Oh, interesting. Oh, you actually saw one of the sequels. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I didn't even see I didn't see one until 2 buddies of mine in high school. We're that summer, we're going juniors to be seniors, and we didn't have nothing to do. And I don't know. I remember just renting all 7 of the movies. Yeah. And we only saw 6 together. I ended up watching Wes Craven's Nightmare by myself after that. Yeah. But like watching all of them in the row, I was like, oh, these movies are great. Like, if you survive the first one, it gets you in the third one. You're not gonna make the sequel. He's gonna get you. And I started watching it. But then I saw the first one, and I was like, and I had to kind of break that one down, because when I really I was like, oh, I like it. I understand why I like this. Why this is the good one. This is the best one, or why everybody loves this one. And then, but I started seeing, like, when they asked me what's your favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie, I go, well, I mean, I still love 4 and 3 a lot. I like 3 a lot, but if you sit down and watch all 1 through 6, and then you watch 7, I like that Wes Craven's Nightmare, only because it's kind of that it brings them all together. Now I know it has that scream feel that you don't like. That shows the.
I actually will give. And I probably need to rewatch that one, CJ, because it's been so long since I've seen that particular, the new Nightmare. Yeah. But actually, I think that one didn't really bug me the way Scream did, but you are right, though. It is kind of pulling back the curtain. Yeah. But I think it's because it's still got enough atmosphere in it. It does. That it's not, I don't know, Scream just for me is like purely comedic. And some of the characters I feel like some of the characters remind me of, you remember there were so many teen movies around that time that, just kind of blurred, blurred together.
I know what you did yesterday.
And whether it was like teen horror or teen comedy, you remember there was like American Pie, and there was shit, man, I can't remember any of them now, but there was a bunch of,
Well, I was going to say, I think it's more. Sorry, you go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say that the character is so key. Like with Scream, it is true, the postmodern irony stuff doesn't work that much for me. But in New Nightmare, actually, it doesn't bug me, because the characters are still pretty developed. Like, I mean, it probably helped too that they still have Heather Langenkamp, right? Yeah. I mean, they bring her back. I mean, it's still horrific. It's still got enough seriousness to it that it's not just totally comedic.
And I also like that there's that crossover point there where it does have like everything that's like I guess meta is higher stakes in real life. So it's kind of like it's like a snake eating its tail, and it's coming to the center, which I think is great. But other than like watching like just horror movies, because I got introduced to Friday the 13th as well. Like I didn't even realize I got introduced to Zombie Jason first for a long time. And it wasn't until I had to go back and watch.
So that's like part 7, I think, the New Blood.
6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
All that,
Oh, 6. Yeah, 6 as well. 6, I forgot. Yeah.
6 is because it turns to Zombie Jason, and it's like, man, I feel like we're too young when they came out. We didn't get to really watch them, but like going back and watching, I'm like, watching the Saw movies, like Gabe, he's from the network. He loves Saw, but I can see how they're connected. It's kind of, they're not like the Fast and the Furious like kind of sequel, but it gets there kind of. I don't even know how we got the Fast and the Furious 9. Like we're really going there, man. We are going there. We're just like strap on. We're gonna go to Fast and the Furious 15. We're gonna have CGI Toretto up in this bitch, man. Like,
well, you know, and everybody has their, I'll give, actually, I'm really glad you brought up New Nightmare. It actually is inspiring me to want to rewatch it because, and you and JW could probably correct me on this, but if I remember, JW was bringing this up earlier, that one of the weaknesses of the Nightmare on Elm Street series was that same thing, right? That Freddy becomes so comedic, right, as it continues. But if I remember correctly, I think he's serious again in New Nightmare. I think he's actually more menacing again in New Nightmare.
Yeah, well, it's not really him though. That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's like
the meta, like you said.
But it's cool though because they do have like you do see the actor Freddy and then the character Freddy, and you get to meet this new one, so it does show the significance.
Yeah,
but I mean also.
And dude, I gotta say this real quick. I'm sorry. Because you brought up Craven at the beginning, and I realized we never brought this up. As much as I go on and on about the 70s, there was some good stuff released in the 80s and 90s that my favorite Craven film, most people would probably not pick this as their favorite, but I think his scariest film is Serpent and the Rainbow. Oh my God, the level of nightmarishness in that film. I mean, it is very haunting, very disturbing.
Dude, I need to watch that. I haven't seen that. Serpent.
Oh no! Oh man! Okay, I thought maybe you'd already seen it, so I was curious to see what you thought because you're a Craven guy, but oh, dude, and I don't know if JW, what his opinion is, but man, I really do think that's his scariest film. I mean, just for, in all of his films, like you said, he does a lot. He puts a lot of craft into a lot of his films, whether it's, the more grimy, gritty, like the 70s stuff, like Last House on Left, Hills Have Eyes. Whether it's kind of the more, like we say, Nightmare on Elm Street gets more into, there's some more special effects, more, but man, Serpent and the Rainbow, that one still blows my mind all these years later. And it's based on a true story too. Wade Davis, this guy that went down there to investigate voodoo traditions and voodoo rituals. And man, that film is a trip. Like you definitely have to see that.
Bill Pullman, I've seen scenes from it. That's why I see it. I haven't seen the movie. I was like, I saw the faces.
Oh man,
I've seen that scene before. But yeah.
Oh, dude, and way more 70s in feel than an 80s movie. I mean, very gritty, all on location. He's got like some kind of political stuff in there too. Very, very nightmarish, very dark.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. I gotta get to bed. But JW said very menacing and more like a dark fable character than the Freddy we grew up with. Yes.
Oh, he's talking about New Nightmare. Okay, New Nightmare,
and he says, "Don't bury me. I'm not dead."
Oh, yeah, that's the tagline from Serpent and the Rainbow. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh, dude, but oh man, I have nothing but the highest praise for that one. That's probably my favorite Craven. Which I kind of find myself surprised by because of how much I love the 70s. But I mean, that one was, I think that's his scariest film, really.
Yeah. And didn't he do, no, because I'm also going to super tight all this in right now. Because check this out. Because we're talking about, I start off with Wes Craven. I just picked him because he's one of my favorite directors.
You did. I thought it was a good way to wrap up since you started with Craven.
So we're ending with Craven, but this is where I'm even going to go like another route. Because didn't he do...
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because he did... Let's see. I know he did... hold on. I was going to say... Well, I know he's... he did all the Screams, right? Scream 1, 2, and 3?
Dude, I cannot remember. I mean, he might have. I just remember. I know he did the first one, but with the sequels, I kind of lost track. But he might have done the first 3. Yeah.
So he did do Scream 2 and 3. So in Scream 3, we have a Jay and Silent Bob cameo, which is Kevin Smith's world.
And see, I don't even remember. I can't remember if I saw 3. I'm sure I did. I remember seeing 1 and 2, but I don't know if I saw Scream 3. I might have. It's been a while.
I saw that one, but it takes me a minute to remember it. But I'm saying like they're in that movie, and that's how we're tying this whole show up. It's all works together because even JW came over. He didn't steal my show. He feels bad. He's over here private messaging me like, I'm so sorry, but I was like, it's like I sent you the link.
No, he added some spice to the seasoning or whatever the recipe.
I'm like, I know what we have. I was not like I'm like oh, I'm in the lion's den. Why'd I get bit? I know it. I was like, I know what I got.
Hey, come on, JW. We're the experts here.
I was like more walking around like the little kid with the giant lion. Like, yeah, that's what I got right here. And I'm like, oh, like you know 70 movies, but I don't know shit. But I know what he does. It's like, here we go. I brought my big brother with me. Like, you know? But he says, great film, not 80ish at all. Oh yeah, and great show, CJ, and great guest. Nice meeting you, Mark. Yes, Craven did.
Likewise, man.
Yeah, dude, he didn't do 4 or 5. Yeah, but yeah, man. So yeah, whenever you want, I'm sure the network already loves you. So see, we'll have you around and come hang out with us. But yeah, we're gonna wrap this episode up. I'm happy, dude. It went 2 hours. We're hitting 2 hours 10 minutes.
Dude, and sorry about that. I don't know if they're usually an hour, but
nah, I don't know. We don't know. We're having a good time.
Oh, you guys the time is like flexible. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if I get an email tomorrow, if I read it, I don't know. I don't know.
So yeah, what the hell happened, man? Why you get 2 hours?
When you get good content, and you have stuff to talk, bounce off, you know, it works well, you know, and then you have a JW Caldwell appearance, so it's like you're gonna get more knowledge. People, this is where you learn.
Yeah, man.
This is the whole thing. It takes time to learn. You got to put time into things, and things aren't gonna happen overnight. You got to just kind of deal with things. When things happen to fall to the side, they're gonna fall. Just keep going and figure it out. I mean, dude, thank you for sharing the stories with me. And
hey, man, and thank you for sharing like your inspiration for the page, and JW his thoughts on horror and film. And yeah, man, I had a great time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, dude. And it seems like you're very well balanced. I'm okay balanced, and JW is definitely well balanced. And he says we're all talkers on this network. Hell yeah. We all can talk, but I mean, I just think it's just showing us the camaraderie, and then the fact that we've only like really spoken a few times, and it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, not even like talking. Like I was just coming into it. You like post so much about movies. I'm like he's probably there's something here I'm seeing that I need to kind of go talk about, because also like I like the way you run your page, and I'm gonna start seeing.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
It does. It keeps things interesting. I'm not on Instagram that much. Only because I feel like Instagram people, I feel like they want to get a hold of me a lot easier than Facebook. A lot of people don't want to be on Facebook, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I understand why.
Oh yeah, dude, I deleted my Facebook years ago. I found much more. I kind of Facebook. I like what you have here, man. That's great. You've created this community on here. Like with Facebook, I didn't have that. Like at a certain point, I was just like, why am I on here? And then Instagram, thankfully, I mean, and it's true. I mean, Instagram has its weaknesses too. I mean, we can easily just get caught up in like liking posts mindlessly and not really getting to know each other more, you know. I'm guilty of that myself with people that I follow, but in an ideal situation, I mean, Instagram, I definitely found more of a community on there for sure.
Yeah, dude.
But I think it was after I created the 70s horror movies. Before that, I was kind of just another, you know.
Yeah, but that's good though, man. Keep it at Rush, and then I already liked the gram page and sent you a message. Look at that, JW's.
Cheers, JW, man.
You guys gonna
buy you a beer sometime.
You guys gonna be challenging each
Virtual
other.
beer.
There you go. I think that's a thing. I honestly think that's a thing we should look into. But everybody, thank you for hanging out. That is 70 horror movies on IG. Look them up, follow them. Mark, I appreciate it. I'm gonna end this.
CJ, man, likewise, man. Really dug I dig what you're doing. And hey, man, now I gotta check you guys out. So you're on Monday, and JW's show is on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays, yes. And then Brandon Brooks is on Friday. Gabe Simbalista is on Tuesday, and David Lee Madison, Scott Schiaffo, and Joe Ridgely on Sunday. So it's kind of.
Oh wow! I'm gonna have to. Yeah.
I'll
have to remember.
We have right now. We have shows Monday, Tuesday. We're kind of Wednesday, and then Thursday's kind of, and then we have Friday down. Saturday's kind of, because Saturday we could do special events and whatnot. We'll do for that, or like if you have like anything, like a screening or whatnot, a movie you want to show, we'll talk about it. But also we do,
cool, man.
Yeah, we also have like a show I do with another co-host, anybody. It's called Crowd the Fun. So we'll like help you for your independent movie or your independent music, or if you have like a GoFundMe or Indiegogo, we'll help you promote it. Something. It's just like I said. I never.
Oh man, that's cool that you guys are helping out the independent artists, and hell yeah.
I'll tell you this much. I didn't know I was gonna get this much into it, but the fact that I see more of the community, the way they're nice, the way they treat me, I'm like, I feel like I have to get back. I feel like it's selfish of me to just be taking all this in and not be giving back or showing, because at least at this route, I'll talk about their movies they want to talk about, or I'll watch them, and if I give them a mark rating and they don't like it, I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? I'm very lenient on movies because I know how hard they are to make. So I'm a little too like, here, it's okay, I get it, but Ben.
Oh no, I could learn from that, man. I'm probably more on the Where I'm too harsh. I feel like sometimes, like I can be a harsh critic for sure.
But it depends, It depends how close you're to the source or whatever. But like Ben on our show Side by Side, he's very cut and dry to the point, which I like. 'Cause it helps me really. But we'll bounce off each other's scores. But all right, brother, I'm gonna end this broadcast because we're going.
Man.
I'm gonna go ahead. So everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. This is my Manic Mondayz for movies and mental health meet. I'm here with my guest, Mark from 70's Horror Movies on Instagram. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Thank you, JW Caldwell, for hanging out with us as well. That's Generation Movies on Wednesdays. See y'all later. Peace.
Thank you.